Chapter 30, 113. Boom! In the next moment, Feng Wanyan, who was high up in the sky, emitted a monstrous aura. What was this aura if not the immortal perfection stage? He actually hid his cultivation. Everyone looked at Feng Wanyan in shock, including Zhang Sanbao. He was quite familiar with Feng Wanyan, but even he did not know Feng Wanyan's true cultivation. Zhang Sanbao, to think that you said that you like my sister. You actually didn't tell us such an important thing. Zhao Yang came back to his senses and immediately glared at Zhang Sanbao, who was not far away. I don't know either. Zhang Sanbao frowned. Everyone calls him brother. How can you not know? Zhao Yang did not believe it. Forget it if you don't believe me. I'm not in the mood to explain it to you. Zhang Sanbao glanced at Zhao Yang, then looked up at Zhao Shaojin, the worry on his face growing. Previously, although he was worried about offending Feng Wanyan, at least Zhao Shaojin would not be in danger. But now, their cultivation was the same. Feng Wanyan was also the grandson of the 10th elder, so he must have some trump cards hidden. Zhao Shaojin would most likely lose this battle. If she really lost to Feng Wanyan, then she would have to become his woman. At the thought of this, Zhang Sanbao could not help but go crazy. In the sky, Feng Wanyan's face was full of pride, and he said with a smile, Are you used to everyone calling you a genius girl, so you really think you're a genius? Zhao Shaojin frowned. Feng Wanyan had indeed caught her off guard by hiding his strength. However, it was not to the point of lowering her head and admitting defeat. Chirp! She waved her hand, accompanied by a phoenix cry. A huge fire phoenix soared into the sky with mighty divine power. Paragon-level divine art? Feng Wanyan's face was full of contempt, and with a wave of his hand, a black python roared out, revealing its ferocious fangs, and charged towards the fire phoenix. With a wail, the fire phoenix collapsed on the spot. That black python was like a demon, pouncing toward Zhao Shaojin. This is... Shaojin, be careful! This is his heaven-defying divine art, and it's a high-level heaven-defying divine art. Zhang Sanbao's expression changed, and quickly reminded her. What? He actually used a high-level heaven-defying divine art? Isn't this clearly bullying our Shaojin? Doesn't have a heaven-defying divine art. Everyone was instantly enraged. The black python roared in the sky, its ferocious might shaking the world. Its bloody mouth seemed to want to swallow Zhao Shaojin whole. Zhao Shaojin's pupils contracted. When the black python pounced on him, he used teleportation and narrowly avoided it. However, although she managed to avoid the attack of the black python, a scratch mark was left on her left shoulder. Her clothes were torn, revealing her white skin. Streaks of blood seeped out of the 3 scratches. How is it? It's not too late to admit defeat now, so that you won't suffer any physical pain. Feng Wanyan laughed loudly. You think you're worthy of me admitting defeat? Zhao Shaojin looked at the wound on his shoulder with disdain. Ugh! Feng Wanyan was stunned. How dare he be so arrogant? Haha, that's what I like about you. Conquering a woman like you gives me a sense of accomplishment. Now have a good taste of despair. Feng Wanyan laughed heartily. With a loud clang, a 5-foot-long spear appeared. The spear was completely black, and the tip of the spear emitted a bone-piercing sharpness. Zhao Shaojin's face darkened slightly, because this spear was also a heaven-defying divine artifact. This is too much. Not only did you activate a high-level heaven-defying divine art, you even used a heaven-defying divine artifact. Feng Wanyan, if you really have the ability, then put down these worldly possessions and fight with my sister openly. Zhao Yang roared. Although he was idle, although Zhao Shaojin often scolded him, although he usually hated this sister of his, it was undeniable that he cared about his family and Zhao Shaojin. That's right. If you have the ability, then put down these worldly possessions and fight with Shaojin. Otherwise, Even if you win, no one will be convinced. Everyone followed suit and roared. Unfair victory? What a bunch of naive idiots! Feng Wanyan shook his head and sneered. The spear recovered slightly and pierced towards Zhao Xiaojin's chest. Zhao Xiaojin dodged again and again, looking more and more embarrassed. This is the difference between identity and status. Qin Feiyang shook his head. That's right. In terms of cultivation, Zhao Xiaojin is the same as Feng Wanyan. In terms of age, this Feng Wanyan is much older than Zhao Xiaojin. Zhao Xiaojin can catch up later. This is enough to prove that her talent is better than Feng Wanyan. But because of the difference in identity and status, Feng Wanyan has a heaven-defying divine artifact and a heaven-defying divine art. Otherwise, it is really hard to say who will win. Frenzy sighed. Indeed, there was nothing fair in this world. For someone like Feng Wanyan, even if he was just waiting for death, as long as he opened his mouth, he would be able to get the divine artifact that others dreamed of. For someone like Zhao Xiaojin, no matter how hard you work, you are still inferior to the other party. Fight back! Why do you only know how to dodge? Is this still your character, Zhao Xiaojin? In the sky, Feng Wanyan held a spear and laughed wildly in high spirits. This spear was only a low-level heaven-defying divine artifact, but for Zhao Xiaojin, it had an absolute suppression. She kept dodging. There were already more than a dozen wounds on her body, and her body was dyed red with blood. Puff! Suddenly, Zhao Xiaojin couldn't dodge in time, and the tip of the spear pierced into Zhao Xiaojin's right shoulder. Zhao Xiaojin's face instantly paled. Sister, why don't you admit defeat? Zhao Yang roared. Yes, listen to your trash brother. Admit defeat, and then obediently be my woman. At that time, you can have whatever divine art you want, whatever divine artifact you want. Feng Wanyan smiled and pulled out his spear. Blood gushed out from the wound on Zhao Xiaojin's shoulder like a fountain. But Zhao Xiaojin ignored the wound and stared at Feng Wanyan. You said my brother is trash! If he's not trash, then what is he? Feng Wanyan laughed. Being humiliated so openly, Zhao Yang's face was a little embarrassed. Zhao Xiaojin's expression became uglier and said, No matter how useless he is, only I, Zhao Xiaojin, can bully him. Who do you think you are? Feng Wanyan's smile froze. This woman really has character. Frenzy laughed. Indeed, Qin Feiyang nodded. Although he usually beat and scolded Zhao Yang, no one could erase the care in his heart. There was a good saying, beating is flirting, scolding is love. Zhao Xiaojin's attitude toward Zhao Yang had always been that he expected better from him and hoped that he could work harder. But there was no other way. Zhao Yang was like a dead pig that was not afraid of boiling water. No matter how he beat or scolded him, it was useless. Who do I think I am? Good. You still have the strength to be arrogant. Looks like I'm not ruthless enough. Feng Wanyan came back to his senses and immediately became angry out of humiliation. He raised the spear in his hand and charged towards Zhao Xiaojin. Zhao Xiaojin took a step back and said indifferently, So this is your full strength? So what if it is? Can you block it? Feng Wanyan laughed proudly and shot out another spear. Looks like you're not only a scum, but also a frog at the bottom of a well. Stupid, ignorant. Zhao Xiaojin's face was full of disdain as he slowly raised his arm. Suddenly, a milky white divine light appeared from his palm. In the next instant, a 3 feet long sword condensed, and a world-destroying sharpness immediately surged out. This is the law of light, sword of light. Qin Feiyang and Madman's eyes immediately widened in anger. Even the black-haired old man, who was sitting cross-legged on the city wall, suddenly opened his eyes and stared at the long sword in Zhao Xiaojin's hand in shock. Clang! Zhao Xiaojin grabbed the long sword and faced the long spear. The two divine weapons collided with a loud bang and were actually evenly matched. This, Feng Wanyun's eyes also suddenly widened as he exclaimed, "How do you have a heaven-defying divine weapon?" "Heaven-defying divine weapon? Are your eyes playing tricks on you? Does this look like a divine weapon?" Zhao Shaojin sneered. "It's not a heaven-defying divine weapon." Feng Wanyan looked at the long sword in a daze. "You can't even recognize the power of law. Looks like you, the grandson of the 10th Elder, are really a frog at the bottom of a well." Madman spoke with undisguised ridicule. The power of law. Feng Wanyan was shocked as he stared at Zhao Shaojin in disbelief and roared, "You have already comprehended the power of law!" "Shaojin has already comprehended the power of law? Why didn't we know about this?" The onlookers below were also surprised. Most of them lived in the East City, and some were even Zhao Xiaojin's neighbors. But comprehending the power of law was such a big matter. Yet there was no news at all. Are you very surprised? That's true. For a scum like you, who only knows how to rely on your family background, the power of law is something that you will never be able to touch. Zhao Shaojin had a look of contempt. That's right. She did have the qualifications to look down on Feng Wanyan. Feng Wanyan was older than her and had a better family background than her. He also enjoyed more resources and treatment than her. But she relied on her own efforts to not only catch up to Feng Wanyan in cultivation, but she also comprehended the power of law and left Feng Wanyan far behind. This was her, the genius girl of the East City. The power of law! She's only at the perfect immortal realm, but she actually comprehended the law of light. Feng Wanyan shook his head, finding it hard to accept this fact. Suddenly, he raised his head and roared, "So what if you comprehended the first profundity of the law of light? I have a high-grade, heaven-defying divine art, and you are still not my match." With a wave of his hand, the black python appeared again and pounced at Zhao Shaojin with bared fangs and brandished claws. "You are really pitiful. Apart from the heaven-defying divine items your grandfather gave you, you can't even take out a decent method." Zhao Shaojin shook her head and pointed her finger in the air. She said coldly, "Holy radiant sword." Clang! As the power of law appeared, an even more dazzling and terrifying divine sword appeared out of thin air. "What is this? Holy radiant sword. This isn't the third profundity of the law of light?" Frenzy looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Qin Feiyang also looked at the divine sword floating in front of Zhao Shaojin with surprise and bewilderment. After repeated identification, he found that it was indeed the third profundity of the law of light, Holy Radiant Sword. Because he had grasped the law of light, he was extremely familiar with the third profundity, Holy Radiant Sword. Unbelievable. Not only did she comprehend the law of light, but she had also comprehended the third profundity. She was indeed worthy of being the genius girl of the East City. Just based on this point, she could crush countless geniuses of the Sky Cloud realm. Chapter 3114. On the other hand, Feng Wanyan. At this moment, in front of Zhao Shaojin, he seemed even more insignificant. He was even more embarrassed than a clown, because the two of them were no longer on the same level. Perfect indestructible, third profound. There's such a genius in the East City, and this old man didn't know at all. What a fool. At the same time, on the city wall, the black-haired old man looked at Zhao Shaojin and muttered to himself. There was a trace of annoyance and excitement in his eyes. To be able to comprehend the third profound at such a young age, his future achievements would definitely be limitless. In the sky, Zhao Shaojin grabbed the holy light sword, and divine light shone from her body. Like a holy goddess descending, she slashed at the black python. Boom! With a loud sound, the black python and the holy light sword shattered at the same time. Following that, Zhao Shaojin waved her hand again and activated the second profound, Sword of Judgment. Clang! She grabbed the Sword of Judgment and landed in front of Feng Wanyan. The sword of judgment was placed directly on Feng Wanyan's neck. Feng Wanyan quivered, and only then did he recover from his shock. He raised his head and looked at Zhao Xiaojin in horror. He had never thought that a woman's talent would be so terrifying. He had never thought that one day he would suffer such a huge humiliation in front of a woman. "You've lost," Zhao Xiaojin said coldly. But Feng Wanyan acted as if he didn't hear it, and there was a trace of resentment in his frightened eyes. Zhao Xiaojin raised her eyebrows. Swoosh! Zhang Sanbao flew into the sky and stood beside Feng Wanyan. He looked at Zhao Xiaojin and said with a smile, "Xiaojin, since you've won, put away the sword of judgment." In fact, he couldn't calm down. After being together for so many years, he didn't know anything about Zhao Xiaojin comprehending the power of law. Her talent was even better than his, because he had only comprehended one power of law and had only reached the first profound, and Zhao Xiaojin had already reached the third profound. Because of this, his admiration for Zhao Xiaojin became even stronger. Only he, Zhang Sanbao, was worthy of such a woman. Zhao Xiaojin glanced at Zhang Sanbao and said to Feng Wanyan, "As a man, I hope you'll keep your word." After saying that, she waved her hand, and the sword of judgment immediately dissipated. She turned around and left. But just as Zhao Xiaojin turned around, Feng Wanyan suddenly exploded, the spear in his hand piercing through Zhao Xiaojin's back like lightning, piercing through his lower abdomen. Zhang Sanbao was stunned. Qin Feiyang and the others were also dumbfounded. Even Zhao Xiaojin himself found it hard to believe. He had already lost, and the battle was already over, yet he still dared to launch a sneak attack from behind? Haha, damned woman, so what if you've comprehended the power of law? Didn't you fall into my hands in the end? Feng Wanyan's attack succeeded, and he immediately raised his head and laughed loudly. "Brother Feng, you've gone too far." Zhang Sanbao regained his senses, pushed Feng Wanyan back with a palm, pulled out his spear, and said angrily, "Too much?" Feng Wanyan laughed loudly and said proudly, "My grandfather is the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's 10th elder. Even if I kill her, what can you do to me?" You, Zhang Sanbao frowned. Feng Wanyan laughed coldly. "What? Do you also want to make an enemy out of me?" "I." Zhang Sanbao lowered his head. His face was filled with panic. He liked Zhao Xiaojin, but he was also afraid of Feng Wanyan's family background. Feng Wanyan took a step forward and snatched the spear from Zhang Sanbao's hands. Zhang Sanbao quivered and said in a fawning manner, "Brother Feng, little Jin's Sea of Qi has already been crippled. This matter can also end now." And no. Right now, I have to say it's over. It's useless for anyone else to say it. Feng Wanyan shook his head and sneered. "We're all from the Alliance. Why are you doing this?" Zhang Sanbao was burning with anxiety. "Zhang Sanbao, you're just a spineless coward. Scram, don't get in my way." At this time, Zhao Xiaojin, who was standing at the back, suddenly turned around and pushed Zhang Sanbao away. Zhang Sanbao's eyelids twitched. He immediately returned to Zhao Xiaojin's side and said softly, "Little Jin, I'm doing this for your own good, for my own good." "With your humble attitude, even I feel embarrassed looking at you." Zhao Xiaojin sneered. He raised his head to look at Feng Wanyan and sneered. "In front of so many people, you actually dare to do such a thing like sneak attack. You are indeed a well-deserved grandson. You're fucking courting death." Feng Wanyan flew into a rage out of humiliation. The spear in his hand flickered with a faint light and went straight for Zhao Xiaojin's forehead. "Brother Feng, you can't." Zhang Sanbao stood in front of Zhao Xiaojin, his face full of pleading. "Scram!" Feng Wanyan roared. "If you don't dare to make a move, then scram to the side." Zhao Xiaojin also pushed Zhang Sanbao away once again. Zhang Sanbao was in a difficult situation. In his opinion, he was trying his best to protect Zhao Xiaojin, But why was he not liked by Zhao Shaojin? Feng Wanyan did not stop. The tip of his spear flickered with a bone-piercing cold light, and the killing intent in his eyes was not concealed. However, Zhao Shaojin did not retreat, nor did he panic. He stared straight at Feng Wanyan. Even Qin Feiyang and Madman could not help but admire this courage. What should we do? What should we do? Zhao Yang, who was beside him, was already sweating profusely. If he did not think of a way quickly, his sister would definitely die. But what could he do? For the first time, he felt his own incompetence. If he was willing to work harder in the past, he would not be in such a state now. In the nick of time, a divine light suddenly swept out from the city wall and struck Feng Wanyan's spear like lightning. Feng Wanyan was immediately forced back. Everyone was stunned and turned their heads to look at the city wall. They saw that the black-haired old man had already stood up and looked at Feng Wanyan with a trace of dissatisfaction. So it was this old man who made a move. Everyone suddenly realized ordinary people would definitely not dare to interfere in Feng Wanyan's matters. Zhao Shaojin came back to his senses and turned to look at the black-haired old man. He bowed and said, "Thank you, Elder Qing." "It's fine." Elder Qing waved his hand and looked at Feng Wanyan. "Let people off when possible. Don't go too far." "Who do you think you are? Are you qualified to teach me a lesson?" Feng Wanyan said angrily. "Still arrogant?" Madman was surprised. Although this Elder Qing is powerful, Feng Wanyan has his grandfather as his backing, so he naturally won't put Elder Qing in his eyes. In Feng Wanyan's eyes, Elder Qing might just be a gatekeeper. Qin Feiyang laughed secretly. A trace of disgust crawled up in Madman's eyes as he pursed his lips and said, "This kind of person needs to be taught a lesson. Since Elder Qing has already made a move, then there's no need for us to make a move. Let's just wait and see." Qin Feiyang thought, if Elder Qing didn't make a move, then they definitely wouldn't sit back and do nothing. But now that Elder Qing had made a move, it wasn't their turn. Facing Feng Wanyan's insults, Elder Qing couldn't help but frown and said, "If you continue to pester me like this, I don't mind teaching you a lesson on behalf of your grandfather." "You teach this young master a lesson?" "Ha ha!" Feng Wanyan laughed out loud as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. "Elder Qing has always been highly respected in our alliance. Don't tell me he doesn't have the right to teach you a lesson?" Suddenly, a cold voice sounded. Everyone raised their heads and saw a slender young man in white walking out of the void. "It's him." Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other. That's right. This person was the eldest grandson of the Vice Alliance leader, Yi Tian. It's young master Yi Tian. Why is he here? The surrounding crowd was also in an uproar. The men treated Yi Tian as their idol, while the women treated Yi Tian as their dream lover. Not only that, Yi Tian was extremely popular. Yi Tian. When Feng Wanyan saw Yi Tian appear, he also trembled, and an indescribable fear emerged in his eyes. "Big brother, Yi Tian!" Zhao Shaojin was also overjoyed as she ran to Yi Tian with a face full of worship. Big brother Yi Tian? Why did Shaojin call him big brother? Everyone was suspicious, because in the Alliance City almost everyone called Yi Tian young master, and very few people called him big brother. Those who would call him that must be close to him. "Shaojin, you're amazing. It's only been a short time since we last met, and you've already comprehended the third profound." Yi Tian looked at the woman in front of him, slowly raised his big hand, rubbed Zhao Shaojin's head, and smiled. Everyone was dumbfounded. What was going on? The way Yi Tian looked at Zhao Shaojin was too gentle and filled with doting. Furthermore, Zhao Shaojin had also changed from her previous barbaric self, and was as obedient as a little sheep. At this moment, The one who found it the most difficult to accept was Zhang Sanbao. Zhao Shaojin had always been a woman he adored, but looking at the relationship between Zhao Shaojin and Yi Tian, it seemed that it was not simple. A sense of jealousy immediately crept up in his heart. Next was Feng Wanyan. He never thought that Zhao Shaojin and Yi Tian actually had such a close relationship. Who was Yi Tian? He was the eldest grandson of the Vice Alliance leader. Since young, he had been the focus of the Eastern continent's attention. Now, he was a man who had grasped 2 types of law force. Not to mention him, even his grandfather, the 10th elder, had to be polite in front of Yi Tian. And now, he actually provoked Yi Tian's woman, and even almost died in his hands. Wasn't this hitting an iron plate? Zhao Shaojin lowered her head and said, "No matter how powerful I am, I'm not as powerful as you. Big brother Yi Tian." "What's so powerful about me?" Yi Tian shook his head and laughed bitterly. A figure involuntarily appeared in his mind. The owner of this figure was Qin Feiyang. If one were to talk about being powerful, then this person was truly powerful. Zhao Shaojin raised her head and looked at Yi Tian suspiciously. Why did she catch a trace of disappointment from Big Brother Yi Tian's expression? Wait a moment. Yi Tian smiled at Zhao Shaojin, and then walked step by step in front of Feng Wanyan. Feng Wanyan was extremely nervous. His face was also full of flattering smiles, and said, "Brother Tian, pa." However, before he could say anything, Yi Tian raised his hand and slapped him on the face. Feng Wanyan's expression froze, and immediately said, "Brother Tian, can you leave me some face?" You and little Jean were originally in a fair battle. Since you lost, then as a man, you should accept your loss. But what about you? What did you do? Sneak attack. And it's a sneak attack on a woman. Do you think you still have any face in the alliance? Yi Tian gave him another slap. Yes. I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I apologize. Feng Wanyan begged for mercy. Previously, he was so arrogant that he didn't even put an old senior like Elder Qing in his eyes. However, at this moment, he was like a little lamb. From this, it could be seen that Yi Tian's prestige in the alliance was not ordinary. Chapter 31:15. Apologize to Elder Qing. Yi Tian retreated to the side and pointed at Elder Qing. Feng Wanyan covered his face and ran to Elder Qing. He lowered his head and said, "I'm sorry." "Kneel down and apologize," Yi Tian said. "Kneel down." Feng Wanyan froze. If it weren't for Elder Qing and the other seniors who risked their lives to fight for the rogue Cultivator Alliance back then, would you have such a good life now? Yi Tian raised his eyebrows and landed in front of Feng Wanyan. He raised his hand and slapped him again. I'll kneel. Feng Wanyan hurriedly knelt in the air and looked at Elder Qing. "Elder Qing, I'm really sorry. I'll definitely change in the future." "It's great that you can change your mistakes. Get up." Elder Qing smiled. "Thank you, Elder Qing." Feng Wanyan was extremely grateful. Finally, he didn't have to be beaten up. Yi Tian said again, "Kneel down and apologize to Shaojin." Feng Wanyan froze. Yi Tian said, "This is your bet with her. A man must keep his word." Feng Wanyan clenched his fists. He was convinced that he would kneel down to Elder Qing. After all, as Yi Tian said, these were all seniors. But Zhao Shaojin was a woman, and she was of the same generation. If he kneeled down to a woman of the same generation, how could he face others in the future? Brother Yi Tian, forget it. As long as his grandfather doesn't make things difficult for my father, it's fine. Although Zhao Shaojin was a little wild, she wasn't stupid. If she really made Feng Wanyan kneel in front of everyone, she would have to be wary of Feng Wanyan's revenge at all times. So she might as well act magnanimous and gain a good reputation for being magnanimous. Indeed, as soon as she said that, everyone gave Zhao Shaojin a thumbs up. Even Elder Qing was full of praise. All right then. Yi Tian nodded and smiled at Zhao Xiaojin. He looked at Feng Wanyan and said, "Why aren't you thanking Xiaojin? She has already given you enough face this time." "Thank you, Miss Xiaojin." Feng Wanyan looked at Zhao Xiaojin and smiled. "No need, no need." Zhao Xiaojin waved her hand as if she was driving a fly away. Feng Wanyan smiled bitterly and retreated to the side. He glanced at the crowd below, and his gaze suddenly locked onto Madman. Sensing Feng Wanyan's gaze, the madman's brows twitched as he muttered inwardly, "Kid, you better have some discerning eyes. Don't provoke me." Simultaneously, Yi Tian took out an Essence C Divine pill and passed it to Zhao Xiaojin. "Thank you, brother Yi Tian." Zhao Xiaojin happily received the Origin C Divine pill. The Essence C Divine pill was used to repair the Qi C. Its effect was many times stronger than the Spirit C pill. Looking at Zhao Xiaojin's expression, it seemed that he was unwilling to consume it. "What are you doing?" Yi Tian looked at her suspiciously. "Nothing, nothing." Zhao Xiaojin hurriedly waved his hand, looking a little flustered. He quickly stuffed the Yuanhai Divine pill into his mouth. "All right then, I'll head back first. As for your father, the 10th elder doesn't have the final say. My grandfather has to make the decision." Yi Tian smiled. The meaning behind his words was very clear. He was going to get involved until the end. "All right." Zhao Xiaojin nodded. Yi Tian smiled at Elder Qing, then entered the Alliance capital without looking back. Zhao Yang quickly flew up and looked at Zhao Xiaojin suspiciously. He asked in a low voice, "Sister, when did you know him?" "None of your business." Zhao Xiaojin immediately frowned. Zhao Yang shrunk his neck and muttered unhappily, "If you don't want to say it, then don't say it. Why are you so fierce?" Qin Feiyang and Madman looked at each other and couldn't help but shake their heads and laugh. As expected, he had returned to his original nature. Elder Qing took a few steps forward and looked at Zhao Xiaojin with a hoarse smile. "You're Zhao Eryong's daughter, right?" "Yes." Zhao Xiaojin nodded respectfully. "Not bad, not bad. Zhao Eryong has a good daughter." Elder Qing chuckled. "Elder Qing, you flatter me." Zhao Xiaojin hurriedly waved his hand. "I'm not praising you. It's the truth. To be able to comprehend the power of law and the third profound at the perfected year undead realm. With your talent, it's not an exaggeration to say that you're the best in the Eastern continent. I was really blind in the past. I actually didn't notice it at all. Don't worry, I'll report it to the deputy leader. No. With young Master Yi Tian's appearance, it seems that I don't need to report it." "Xiaojin, just go home and wait for the good news." Elder Qing laughed hoarsely and then returned to the city wall. "There's nothing to see. Everyone disperse." Then he sat cross-legged on the city wall and slowly closed his eyes. "Xiaojin, I didn't expect you to hide it so well. Even us neighbors don't know about it. Are you afraid that we'll be jealous?" Everyone gathered around Zhao Xiaojin. "No, no. I just don't think it's a big deal, so I didn't say it." Zhao Xiaojin hurriedly waved her hand. "This is not a big deal. You're really broad-minded, girl. This is great. With your talent, you can definitely enter the Hall of Fame." Everyone was talking at once, and their faces were full of smiles. "Hall of Fame? I think I'm still lacking." Zhao Xiaojin was stunned. "Not bad, more than enough." Everyone waved their hands. "What's the Hall of Fame?" Madman looked at Qin Feiyang suspiciously. "How would I know?" Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him. However, looking at everyone's envious eyes, the Hall of Fame should be a very powerful place. Clang! Suddenly, the sound of a gunshot suddenly exploded in the void. Everyone suddenly quivered and looked at Feng Wanyan. Why hasn't he left yet? Feng Wanyan glanced at Zhao Xiaojin, then lowered his head to look at Madman and said, "Brat, this young master wants to challenge you." Huh. Qin Feiyong was stunned. Challenging senior brother Madman? Is this person crazy? The others also looked at Madman in unison. Why is he challenging this person? That's right. At that time in Fengqin Tower, it was this person who ran out and proposed for Zhao Xiaojin and Feng Wanyin to fight one-on-one. And now, Feng Wanyin had fallen to such a sorry state. So naturally, he wouldn't let this person go so easily. However, this person had a small success, imperishable realm cultivation. His appearance was also ordinary, as if there was nothing outstanding about him. Zhao Xiaojin raised her eyebrows and looked at Feng Wanyin. Have you had enough? The person this young master is challenging is him. What does it have to do with you? Don't think that just because you have some relationship with Brother Tian, you can control the world. Feng Wanyin sneered. Zhao Xiaojin couldn't help but frown. Madman sighed. There really are people who aren't afraid of death. Don't make a move. Your evil force is unique. Once you make a move, you will definitely expose our identities. Qin Feiyong transmitted. Then I won't use my evil force. Madman took a step forward and landed in front of Feng Wanyin, smiling. After suffering a loss at Zhao Xiaojin's hands, you came to me to look for face. You really know how to play. Cut the crap. If you lose, kneel down in front of everyone and kowtow to apologize. The spear in Feng Wanyun's hand trembled, and a monstrous sharp aura suddenly surged out. Madman had his hands behind his back, his eyes filled with ridicule. Are you stupid? Hurry up and get out of the way. Pretending to be calm and standing there, are you waiting for death? Zhao Xiaojin glared at Madman. Pretending to be calm? Madman was stunned. Does this look like I'm pretending? What kind of eyes are you looking at? Seeing that Zhao Xiaojin seemed to be concerned about Madman, Zhang Sanbao frowned and ran over with a smile. Xiaojin, you really know him? N. Zhao Xiaojin nodded. Zhang Sanbao asked suspiciously, Then who is he? I've never seen him before. Aren't you annoying? Zhao Xiaojin glared at him. Zhang Sanbao smiled bitterly and stood at the side, looking at the motionless madman. His eyes flashed with a trace of gloominess. First, it was Yi Tian, and now this person appeared. They were all people that Zhao Xiaojin cared about, and he was unwilling to accept it. Thinking back to all these years, he had been very concerned about Zhao Xiaojin, but Zhao Xiaojin had never revealed even a trace of concern for him. So, the more he thought about it, the angrier he became, and he almost couldn't help but hate. I'll defeat you in one move. Feng Wanyin sneered at Madman, his spear emitting a black light, like a black python, piercing towards Madman's forehead. Who doesn't know how to brag? That depends on whether you have the ability or not. Madman laughed, and a divine thunder roared out from his body, shattering the void. This is Zhao Xiaojin's pupil shrank. Zhang Sanbao was also shocked. Elder Qing, who was sitting on the city wall, opened his eyes again and stared at the divine thunder around Madman's body. This was the law of thunder. Boom! Crack! The divine thunder was like a heavenly tribulation descending, condensing into a hammer. The second profound of the law of thunder, Thunder God's hammer, understand. Madman grinned, grabbed the Thunder God's hammer, and smashed it towards the spear. With a loud clang, the spear shattered on the spot. After all, this spear was only a low-level heaven-defying divine artifact, and it was much weaker than the second profound. At the same time, Feng Wanyun's entire body was also sent flying by the huge force, blood gushing out of his mouth. The arm that was holding the spear was also shaken to the point of flesh and blood flying everywhere. The second profound of the law of thunder. What's going on? Usually we don't see a single monster like this. Why did two appear in a row today? Everyone was shocked. Elder Qing was the same. A small success immortal realm cultivator had actually comprehended the second profound. This talent seemed to be even better than Zhao Xiaojin's. Needless to say, Feng Wanyan was even more so. He originally wanted to pick a soft persimmon to vent his anger and regain some face, but he didn't expect to hit an iron plate again. When you looked at me just now, I said in my heart that you'd better have some eyesight and don't provoke me. Unfortunately, your eyesight is not good enough. Now, not only did you not regain your face, you even lost more face. What is this called? Oh, right, you're asking to be humiliated. Madman's face was full of ridicule. Feng Wanyan's face was extremely ugly. Today was simply the biggest humiliation of his life for him. Enough, let's stop here. Qin Feiyang stepped in front of Madman and stopped him. He transmitted his voice to Feng Wanyan. Trust me, don't make trouble, or you'll lose even more face later. Feng Wanyan gloomily looked at Qin Feiyang, then glanced at Madman. He put away the fragments of the spear, turned around and flew away. Brother Feng, I'll send you off. Zhang Sanbao hurriedly chased after him. What are you doing? I still want to teach him a lesson and teach him a lesson. Madman looked at Qin Feiyang with dissatisfaction. Come on, you. You're a small success, Immortal Realm cultivator. It's already shocking enough that you revealed the second profound. If you reveal the third profound, I'm afraid it will arouse suspicion. Because now everyone in the Eastern continent knows that the two of us are small success Immortal Realm cultivators and have both mastered the third profound. If they think of something, won't we be finished? Qin Feiyang thought. Although he had the identity token given by Zhao Eryong, it couldn't withstand scrutiny, because there was no information about the two of them in the Alliance capital. Therefore, it was better to keep a low profile. It was not a good thing to attract too much attention. Chapter 31:16. All right. Being too talented is also a problem. Madman dispersed the Thor's hammer, withdrawing the law of thunder into his body, looking as lonely as snow. Qin Feiyang wanted to slap him. I didn't see it. You actually comprehended the law of thunder. Zhao Shaojin walked in front of Madman and said in surprise, Of course. Who am I? The number one monster of the Alliance capital. I just wanted to keep a low profile. Madman smiled proudly. Number one monster of the Alliance capital. Zhao Xiaojin's mouth twitched. The others couldn't help but roll their eyes. This guy really dared to brag. Who didn't know that the number one monster of the Alliance capital was Yi Tian? At this time, Elder Qing waved at Madman and Zhao Xiaojin and smiled. You two come here. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled, and he transmitted his voice to Madman. Don't show any flaws. Got it. Madman replied and followed Zhao Xiaojin to Elder Qing. Elder Qing looked at Madman and asked, What's your name? Mo Wuhui. Madman replied. Mo Wuhui. Elder Qing pondered for a while and frowned. Why haven't I heard of this name? I'm just a small success Immortal Realm cultivator, so how could you know me? Madman smiled embarrassedly. That's true. Elder Qing nodded and smiled. You're even more low-key than Zhao Xiaojin. I can't help it. Zhao Xiaojin has a father to protect him, and I only have a brother. We brothers depend on each other, so we have to keep a low profile. Just like today, if we accidentally offended someone like Feng Wanyan, we wouldn't even know how he died. Madman said with a face full of grievance. That's true. Elder Qing nodded, his face full of sympathy. He looked at Qin Feiyang and asked, He's your brother? Yes. My brother is called Mo Wuyuan. Madman nodded. All right. Work hard, and I'll report it to the higher-ups and see if I can help you get a spot in the Hall of Fame. If you can enter the Hall of Fame, then no one will dare to bully you. Elder Qing smiled. Thank you, Elder Qing. The madman bowed with a grateful look on his face. Why are you thanking me? Discovering and nurturing talents is what we should do. Elder Qing waved his hand and smiled. Madman sighed. If only everyone in the Alliance capital was like you. Listen to what you're saying. No matter where you go, there will always be some bad people. But in the end, good people still make up the majority. Elder Qing smiled. Yes, yes, yes. Madman nodded. All right then, let's establish a contract bridge so that we can contact you when the time comes. After Elder Qing finished speaking, he looked at Zhao Xiaojin and said with a smile, "Take out the divine sound transmission stone as well." The two of them took out the divine sound transmission stone and established a contract bridge with Elder Qing. "Then you can go back first." Elder Qing smiled. "All right." The two nodded respectfully. Then they turned to Qin Feiyang and Zhao Yang and said, "Let's go." The two of them hurriedly followed. He entered the city again. Many people began to look at Zhao Xiaojin in awe. First, it was because of her own strength. Second, it was because of her relationship with Yi Tian. Zhao Yang moved closer to Zhao Xiaojin and said with a flattering smile, "Sister, just tell me, when did you meet Yi Tian?" If he didn't figure it out, he would feel uncomfortable. "Can you shut up?" Zhao Xiaojin glared at him impatiently. "I'm your brother." Zhao Yang pouted. "You're my brother, yes, but what have you done for me?" "I'm the one who helps you clean up the mess outside all day." Zhao Xiaojin snorted coldly. "Yes, yes, yes. My sister is the best. She's simply a little fairy." Zhao Yang chuckled. Zhao Xiaojin burst out laughing. She then glared at Zhao Yang and said, "Big brother Yi Tian and I met on my 16th birthday." "What the hell? You met at the age of 16? Zhao Yang was stunned. Zhao Xiaojin nodded. "You're good, hiding it from us for so many years." The corner of Zhao Yang's mouth twitched. At the age of 16, she was still a young girl. Although Zhao Xiaojin looked young now, she was an old antique who had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. "Brother Yi Tian didn't let me say it. He said that if everyone knew that I knew him, it would definitely bring a lot of unnecessary trouble. So we've been secretly meeting." Zhao Xiaojin said, "It's a secret rendezvous, right? I was wondering why you looked down on Zhang Sanbao. It turns out that you already have someone in your heart." Zhao Yang pouted. "Don't talk nonsense." Zhao Xiaojin blushed and glared at him fiercely. Okay. Anyway, I don't like this Zhang Sanbao. He flatters, and has no backbone at all. Yi Tian is still the best. If I become his brother-in-law, won't I be able to do whatever I want in the alliance in the future?" Zhao Yang rubbed his hands with a yearning look. "Brother-in-law, you're thinking too much." Qin Feiyang shook his head. "You're jealous of me. I won't argue with you." Zhao Yang smiled proudly. "Jealous?" Qin Feiyang shook his head, looked at Zhao Xiaojin and said with a smile, "I can see that you really like Yi Tian." Zhao Xiaojin's face turned red instantly. Qin Feiyang changed the topic and said, "But I can also see Yi Tian's attitude towards you." Zhao Xiaojin immediately looked at Qin Feiyang. "The way he looks at you." When Qin Feiyang said this, he seemed to have thought of something beautiful and couldn't help but reveal a trace of a smile on his face. "Say it," Zhao Xiaojin urged. Qin Feiyang glanced at Zhao Xiaojin, shook his head and said with a smile, "Forget it. I'd better not say it lest it hurts you." "Why are you like this? You're only saying half the words. Aren't you keeping me in suspense?" "I have to say, I'm not afraid of being hurt," Zhao Xiaojin said angrily. "All right. The way Yi Tian looks at you is like looking at a cute little sister. So in Yi Tian's heart, he only sees you as a little sister and has no other thoughts." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "You don't say that's really the case. The way he looks at Zhao Xiaojin is the same as how you look at Fire Lotus and Shen Guanqiu." Madman secretly said. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "That's why I can clearly feel it." At the same time, when Zhao Xiaojin heard this, her body stiffened slightly, but she quickly returned to normal and said unhappily, "You don't have the fiery eyes of truth. How can you see it with a glance?" The emotions in the eyes can't be hidden. It's just that you're in it and didn't notice it. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Hearing this, Zhao Xiaojin pursed her lips. Even if what you said is true, I'm still very satisfied to be Big Brother Yi Tian's little sister. It's best if you have such thoughts, lest you and Yi Tian get hurt in the future. In any case, feelings can't be forced. Otherwise, in the end, not to mention siblings with different surnames, we can't even be friends. Qin Feiyang laughed. You seem to know a lot about feelings? Zhao Xiaojin looked at Qin Feiyang in astonishment. Me. Qin Feiyang was stunned and shook his head with a smile. Consider it as an experienced person speaking. Experienced person? You're already married? The brothers all looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Is there a problem? Qin Feiyang didn't understand. There's a problem, Zhao Yang mumbled as he carefully sized up Qin Feiyang from head to toe. What problem? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. Look at you. You don't have talent, you don't have strength, you don't have talent. Let's not talk about others first. Let's talk about me. Look at your appearance. You can't even reach 1/3 of my handsomeness. How can there be a woman who likes you? This woman must be blind, or she's a dinosaur-level woman. Yes, that must be the case. Looking at Zhao Yang shaking his head and feeling good about himself, Qin Feiyang couldn't help but want to laugh. To be honest, this person was quite amusing. Zhao Yang looked at Qin Feiyang's silence and chuckled. Am I right? Yes. Young Master Zhao is talented and intelligent. I admire you. Qin Feiyang chuckled. Zhao Yang smiled proudly, then pulled Qin Feiyang to the side and said in a low voice, Brother, don't be discouraged. There's no rule in this world that says a married man can't have fun outside, right? What are you trying to say? Qin Feiyang was stunned. What I want to say is, I'll bring you to the Fengqin Tower to have fun one day. I guarantee that you'll be satisfied. Zhao Yang chuckled. Qin Feiyang was stunned. No need to thank me. We're brothers. We share blessings and misfortunes. Zhao Yang hooked his arm around Qin Feiyang's neck, his head held high and his chest puffed out, looking quite comical. Do you want to bring me to have fun too? Zhao Xiaojin pinched Zhao Yang's ear and laughed maliciously. Why would a girl like you go? Zhao Yang hurriedly shouted. You're still talking about it? Zhao Xiaojin gritted her teeth. I'll stop. Zhao Yang waved his hands and begged for mercy. You're a good-for-nothing and you want to lead others astray? I really want to kick you to death. Zhao Xiaojin's face was filled with anger. These siblings are really a pair of enemies. Qin Feiyang shook his head and laughed. You don't say. It's quite fortunate to have a sister like her to take care of me. Madman transmitted his voice. You mean Zhuo Xiaoxian isn't strict enough with you? Okay, when we return to the Black Tortoise world, I'll find her and discuss this. Qin Feiyang smiled mockingly. Scram, I'm talking about my sister, not my wife. Madman rolled his eyes and pondered for a while before transmitting his voice. Tell me, what is my background? I don't know. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Madman asked. Then tell me, do I have any brothers or sisters? Yes, I'm your brother. Qin Feiyang smiled. Madman glared at him unhappily, but his heart was warm. What would the future be like? But at least now he wasn't alone. Along the way, the siblings played around and finally returned home. Are you guys all right? Wang Shui immediately came up to them, her face full of concern. I'm fine. Zhao Xiaojin shook her head. But why are there so many bloodstains on your body? Wang Shui looked at Zhao Xiaojin, who was covered in blood, and frowned. Mother, it's really nothing serious. I'll go wash up. You can properly entertain these two guests. Zhao Xiaojin smiled mischievously at Wang Shui and ran into the house. Chapter 30, 117. Is it really okay? Wang Shui looked at Zhao Xiaojin's back before looking at Zhao Yang and Qin Feiyang. What do you mean it's okay? It's a big deal. Zhao Yang was excited. What is it? Wang Shui was surprised. Qin Feiyang and the madman glanced at Zhao Yang. Another round of drumming was unavoidable. Qin Feiyang looked at Wang Shui and smiled. Auntie, you guys take your time. Let's go sit in the courtyard outside. Wang Shui was slightly stunned and hurriedly said, Then I'll let Yang accompany you guys. No need. You guys chat. Qin Feiyang smiled. All right then. Treat this place as your own home. Don't be polite. Wang Shui smiled. Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded and then brought Madman out of the pavilion and into the pavilion. Calling me out, do you have something to say? Madman was suspicious. And there's a change in the plan. Qin Feiyang nodded and sat by the stone table. He pondered for a while and said, Zhao Eryong's token should be safe now, but what? Madman frowned. Qin Feiyang sighed. But now I'm afraid there's no way to move Wang Shui and the rest. So it's about this. Madman nodded and said, I think so too. Zhao Xiaojin has shown extraordinary talent and has attracted the attention of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance's upper echelons. If she suddenly disappeared, it would definitely cause a commotion. That's right, especially since she has such a relationship with Yi Tian. Even if she didn't show extraordinary talent, with her relationship with Yi Tian, it's very dangerous for her to go to the Black Tortoise world. Qin Feiyang sighed. This matter was somewhat out of his expectations. Yi Tian was the Vice Lord's eldest grandson, and Zhao Xiaojin had been in love with Yi Tian for a long time. If Zhao Xiaojin were to find out about the situation in the Black Tortoise world and secretly send a message to Yi Tian, then their situation would be very bad. Then, how about this? Destroy her voice transmission godstone. Madman transmitted. If they destroyed Zhao Xiaojin's voice transmission godstone, then even if Zhao Xiaojin knew their identity, she wouldn't be able to inform Yi Tian. No, the divine sound transmission stone is different from the image crystal. Once the divine sound transmission stone is destroyed, Yi Tian will guess whether she met with an accident or not. When the time comes, I'll definitely search everywhere. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Then why don't you destroy it and let us keep it? Madman asked. That won't work either. If Yi Tian sends her a message and no one responds, Yi Tian will also become suspicious. When he comes here to take a look, his whole family is gone. Think about it, who wouldn't be suspicious when encountering such a thing? In short, Zhao Xiaojin has already attracted everyone's attention. This family cannot suddenly disappear at this time. Qin Feiyang said. Then what should we do? We can't keep wasting time like this. Madman raised his eyebrows. We can't keep wasting time like this. We have to find out the relationship between the vice leader and the blood hall as soon as possible. When Qin Feiyang said this, his expression suddenly changed. He pondered for a while and looked at Madman. The Hall of the Exalted, Hall of Fame. Madman was taken aback and asked suspiciously, What do you mean? I heard everyone talking about this Hall of the Exalted. It seems to be very amazing. Say, if I enter the Hall of the Exalted, will I be able to get close to the vice leader? Qin Feiyang secretly said. This Madman was silent and shook his head. I don't know. Qin Feiyang pondered for a while and said, Then when Zhao Xiaojin comes out, we will first inquire about the Hall of the Exalted. Madman nodded. Even Yi Tian didn't know the reason why the vice leader killed them, so they had to start from the vice leader himself. And to get close to the vice leader wasn't an easy task, because Elder Hu personally said that even the people they arranged in the Alliance capital couldn't get close to the vice leader. This meant that the vice leader must be very careful when dealing with this matter. It would be difficult to find out. After a while, Zhao Xiaojin walked out. Her long hair was wet and she was wearing a loose dress. She looked somewhat charming. Why are you guys sitting here? She walked to the pavilion while wiping her hair and looking at the two of them. The air is good. Madman laughed out loud. Xiao Xiaojin rolled her eyes and sat opposite the two of them. Now tell me, why are you looking for us? Guess. Madman grinned. Xiao Xiaojin's face instantly darkened, and she said angrily, I haven't settled the score with you for calling me a tigress, so you better behave yourself. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. I'm looking forward to it. How are you going to be impolite to me? Madman looked at her teasingly. You! Xiao Xiaojin suddenly stood up. Her jade-like hands clenched tightly. All right. Qin Feiyong hurriedly waved his hand and said with a smile, Miss Xiaojin, I have a question that I would like to ask. Do you see that? What is attitude? Learn more. Xiao Xiaojin glared at Madman, then looked at Qin Feiyong and said, What question? Speak. Qin Feiyong said, What do I have to do to meet the two leaders? Xiao Xiaojin was stunned. What? Qin Feiyong was suspicious. No. Are you sure you want to meet the two leaders? Xiao Xiaojin frowned. Qin Feiyong nodded. Xiao Xiaojin's expression suddenly became strange. Is this kid crazy? Why doesn't he take a look at his status and strength? He actually wants to meet the leaders? What's with that look of yours? Are you looking down on us? Madman frowned, his face full of displeasure. It's not that I'm looking down on you guys, but you guys think too highly of yourselves. Not to mention the leader. Even the deputy leader is not someone you can meet. Not to mention you guys, even my father, the city lords of the various cities in the Alliance capital, have to report first and wait for notice if they want to meet the deputy leader. Xiao Xiaojin pouted. Such arrogance. Madman raised his brows. Xiao Xiaojin said indifferently, It's not arrogance. It's just that their status and identity are there. Then what if they enter the Hall of Fame? Qin Feiyong asked. Enter the Hall of Fame? Xiao Xiaojin was stunned for a moment before nodding. Then there's hope to meet the two leaders. Qin Feiyong and Madman looked at each other, a glint flashing in their eyes. Then what kind of place is the Hall of Fame? Qin Feiyong asked with a smile. And Xiao Xiaojin was stunned. He looked at the two of them and asked, You guys don't even know about the Hall of Fame? Are you guys from the Alliance capital? No. Qin Feiyong shook his head. No. Xiao Xiaojin was stunned. Although we're members of the Itinerant Cultivator Alliance, this is our first time in the Alliance capital. Qin Feiyong smiled. The Alliance capital was just the headquarters of the Itinerant Cultivator Alliance. There were many people outside. For example, Zhuo Xiaoxian, Zhuo Xiaocheng, and the guards of the City Lord Mansion were actually considered members of the Itinerant Cultivator Alliance. First time in the Alliance capital? Then how did you guys join the Itinerant Cultivator Alliance? Xiao Xiaojin was suspicious. This is all thanks to your father. Back then, when we were in trouble, he was kind enough to save us. Seeing that we were all alone, he let us join the Itinerant Cultivator Alliance. Qin Feiyong smiled. I see. Xiao Xiaojin came to a realization and said, In that case, my father is your benefactor. Qin Feiyong nodded and smiled. That's not right. Back then, when my father was talking about you guys, he seemed to be a little afraid of you guys. Xiao Xiaojin frowned. Afraid? I'm afraid your eyes are playing tricks on you. With our cultivation, how can your father be afraid of us? Qin Feiyong shook his head. But he said that no matter what you guys say, we have to listen to you guys. Isn't that fear? Xiao Xiaojin was suspicious. Perhaps your father didn't express it clearly. His original intention was that since we're new here, you guys should take care of us. Qin Feiyong smiled. Is that so? Xiao Xiaojin frowned. Qin Feiyong said, If you don't believe me, you can send a message to your father. Of course, we'll explain it clearly. Okay. Zhao Shaojin nodded and took out the voice transmission divine stone. Buzz. Soon, Zhao Eryong's virtual image appeared. Father. Zhao Shaojin smiled sweetly. You lass. I was just about to send you a message. You've comprehended the law of light and even comprehended the third profound meaning. How could you hide such a big matter from your father? Zhao Eryong immediately scolded him. You already know about it. Zhao Shaojin giggled. You and Feng Wanyan made such a big fuss that even young Master Yi Tian personally came out. How could I not know? Zhao Eryong was helpless. Zhao Shaojin said aggrievedly, You can't blame me for this. Feng Wanyan went too far. All right, I got it. Fortunately, you made such a fuss. The higher-ups have already sent me a message saying that the 10th Elder's Order is invalid. Zhao Eryong smiled. That's great. Zhao Shaojin was overjoyed. What's so great about it? Zhao Eryong shook his head. Of course, he could think of the problem that Qin Feiyang and Frenzy could think of. Now that his daughter was receiving a lot of attention, if she moved, she would definitely attract everyone's attention. Zhao Eryong said, Shaojin, leave for a while. Leave. Zhao Shaojin glanced at Qin Feiyang and Frenzy and immediately said unhappily, Father, what exactly are you hiding from us? If I tell you to leave, then leave. Zhao Eryong's expression turned cold. No. Zhao Shaojin shook her head. There was a trace of anger on Zhao Eryong's face. Zhao Shaojin said, We have to make it clear in person. Did you recruit the two of them into the Rogue Cultivator Alliance? Zhao Eryong was stunned and looked at Qin Feiyang and Frenzy suspiciously. This is what happened. Qin Feiyang briefly explained the conversation with Zhao Shaojin. So that's what it is. Zhao Eryong was enlightened. He looked at Zhao Shaojin and said, I did save them back then, and it was because they were alone that I recruited them into the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Really? Zhao Shaojin frowned. Of course. They have been wandering outside for the past few years. I saw that they had already broken through to the initial imperishable stage, so I let them come to the Alliance capital to see the strength of our Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Zhao Eryong nodded. Zhao Shaojin finally believed it. She said unhappily, All right then, you can talk in private. She emphasized the word private to express the dissatisfaction in her heart. Then she threw the divine voice stone to Qin Feiyang and turned to walk into the attic angrily. Chapter 30, 118. After Qin Feiyang watched Zhao Shaojin enter the pavilion, he looked at Zhao Eryong and said with a smile, This daughter of yours is a little difficult to deal with. That's good. She won't suffer outside, Zhao Eryong said. Qin Feiyang looked around and said in a low voice, The situation has changed. I can see it. Zhao Eryong nodded. Qin Feiyang said in a low voice, In the future, we will tell the public that you recruited us into the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, orphans without parents. What about my wife and 2 sons? Zhao Eryong frowned. Qin Feiyang glanced at the pavilion and said in a low voice, Don't worry about that. I will ensure their safety. All right, then I won't say much. You guys be careful. Zhao Eryong reminded. Qin Feiyang nodded. Zhao Eryong's image dissipated. Qin Feiyang lowered his head and muttered to himself. Not long after, Zhao Shaojin walked out and changed into a clean, tight outfit. Her hair was tied behind her head, looking neat and capable. Are you done chatting? She walked into the pavilion and looked at the two of them. Qin Feiyang returned the voice transmission godstone to Zhao Shaojin. Zhao Shaojin pursed her lips and said, I really don't know what it is that I can't know. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, A woman definitely can't know about a man's matters. And Zhao Shaojin was stunned. She glanced at the pavilion and said in a low voice, Could it be that father has a new woman outside? Qin Feiyang and Madman exchanged glances. This woman's thoughts changed too quickly. They couldn't adapt to it. What if that's the case? Madman looked at her teasingly. Isn't it normal for a man to have 3 wives and 4 concubines? But it's wrong to hide it from us. Anyway, I don't care. It depends on whether Mother can accept it or not. Of course. I will definitely stand on my mother's side. Zhao Xiaojin snorted coldly. Madman was speechless and asked curiously, "Tell us about this Hall of Fame." The Hall of Fame. A look of yearning appeared on Zhao Xiaojin's face. He looked up at the sky and said, "This place is our alliance's holy land for cultivation." Cultivation, holy land? Madman and Qin Feiyang were even more curious. Yes, to be honest, Big Brother Yi Tian often brings me to the Hall of Fame. Zhao Xiaojin chuckled. What? The 2 of them were stunned. But every time I hide in his spatial divine item so no one knows. The Hall of the Exalted is not only rich in resources, but also has temporal arrays. Zhao Xiaojin's face was filled with excitement. Time array? Qin Feiyang and Qin Feng were stunned. Yes, it's a time formation that lasts 500 years per day. How about it? Amazing, right? Zhao Xiaojin looked at the 2 of them proudly. 500 years in one day. Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist looked at each other. They were wondering how powerful he was. It was just like the time array that Ice Dragon had set up on the Divine Dragon Island. It was twice as extensive as the Black Tortoise Realm. What's with that expression? Aren't you surprised at all? Zhao Xiaojin looked at the 2 of them and couldn't help but frown. Surprised? Of course I'm surprised. I've never heard of such a powerful temporal array before, the mad scientist said in an extremely exaggerated manner. Then your cultivation speed is so fast because you often follow Yi Tian to the Hall of Fame? Qin Feiyang asked. More or less, but this doesn't deny my talent. Look at Feng Wanyan. He stays in the Hall of Fame every day, but I don't see how powerful he is, Zhao Xiaojin said. Feng Wanyan is also in the Hall of Fame? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Of course, he is the grandson of the 10th Elder. With his identity and status, wherever he wants to go, isn't it just a matter of a word from the 10th Elder? Zhao Xiaojin pouted. Qin Feiyang asked, "Then what are the conditions for others to enter the Hall of Fame?" First of all, it must be talent and cultivation. Your cultivation must be at least the perfect imperishable realm. As for talent, you must comprehend a type of law. Secondly, you must go through a trial. According to Brother Yi Tian, this trial is quite difficult and very dangerous. If you are not careful, you may lose your life. Zhao Xiaojin said. At least the perfect imperishable realm? Qin Feiyang frowned. That's right. Zhao Xiaojin nodded. Then, don't you already have this qualification? Qin Feiyang was stunned. Since you already have this qualification, why not go to the Hall of Fame? I just broke through to the perfect imperishable realm a few years ago, and the trial of the Hall of Fame only opens once every 1,000 years. Originally, I planned to sign up this time to give Brother Yi Tian a surprise. But I didn't expect Feng Wanyan to appear halfway and expose my 3rd profound of the law of light in advance. Zhao Xiaojin had a look of dissatisfaction. Then, how long until the next trial opens? The mad scientist asked. Zhao Xiaojin thought for a moment and said, It seems to be more than 300 years. 300 years! Qin Feiyang and the mad scientist looked at each other. 300 years should be enough for them to step into the great mastery of the undead realm. But there was definitely no hope for them to step into the perfect, imperishable realm, unless they took the Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill. But it was too much of a loss to take the Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill at the perfect, imperishable realm. The mad scientist asked, Must one reach the perfect, imperishable realm to sign up for the trial? Yes, this is the rule set by the Alliance leader himself. Zhao Shaojin nodded. It's a bit troublesome. The mad scientist transmitted his voice. Yes, if I really can't think of a way, then I can only take the Dragon Phoenix divine pill. Qin Feiyang secretly said. Then, you have decided to enter the Hall of Fame? The mad scientist secretly asked. Yes. At the same time, I can also find out how many geniuses are hidden in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Qin Feiyang secretly smiled. Geniuses? The mad scientist smiled proudly and transmitted his voice. With the two of us here, are there any geniuses in this world? Don't. If you want to talk about yourself. Don't drag me into it. I don't have as much confidence as you, nor am I as narcissistic as you. The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. He really wasn't modest at all. Look at your cowardice. The mad scientist rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang. What are the two of you flirting with each other for? Zhao Shaojin looked at the two of them suspiciously. Nothing? Qin Feiyang smiled. Next, the two of them directly stayed in Zhao Eryong's house. Wang Shui also specially arranged a room for them to use for cultivation. In the first few days, Qin Feiyang and Zhao Shaojin would occasionally appear and chat with the family. But then, it was rare for the two of them to appear. Although on the surface they were cultivating in the room arranged by Wang Shui, in reality they were all in seclusion in the castle. Zhao Shaojin was naturally cultivating as well. Zhao Yang was still the same as before. When he had nothing to do, he would ask his friends out to eat, drink, and have fun. In his dictionary, the word cultivation, that would never be possible. During this period, Zhang Sanbao had come to look for Zhao Shaojin many times. But Zhao Shaojin had been cultivating and had not seen him. This made him rather angry, but he could not flare up and could only endure it. The storm caused by Zhao Shaojin and Feng Wanyan also gradually faded away. Perhaps it was because he was afraid of Yi Tian, but Feng Wanyan did not make things difficult for Zhao Eryong's family anymore. Everything slowly calmed down. At the same time, outside, there were more rumors about Qin Feiyang than before, and Winxi City was undoubtedly the center of public opinion. City Lord's mansion. I wonder how they are now. In a secret room, Zhuo Tiansheng, the city lord, and elder you were gathered together. The one who spoke was Zhuo Tiansheng. They have the sovereign divine weapon. What are you worried about? The city lord smiled faintly. Even so, that is the Alliance capital after all. It is the headquarters of our rogue Cultivator Alliance. Zhuo Tiansheng sighed. If Zhuo Shaoxian wasn't with Qin Feiyang and Zhao Shaojin, he wouldn't care. But now that his daughter was by their side, if anything happened to the two of them, his daughter would definitely suffer. All right, don't worry too much. This time, I called the two of you here to discuss Chu Yun's matter. The city lord shook his head with a trace of worry between his brows. At the mention of Chu Yun, Zhuo Tiansheng and Elder Yu looked at each other and couldn't help but frown. All these years, Chu Yun has come to us more than once to ask us to join the Demon Palace. I think we should give her an accurate answer now. Otherwise, if we drag it out like this sooner or later, her patience will be worn out. The city lord said. Zhuo Tianqing shook his head and said, joining the Demon Palace is equivalent to betraying us. I don't think we can do that. But, from Chu Yun's conversation, the Demon Palace knows the true relationship between us and Qin Feiyang like the back of their hand. If we don't agree, what if the Demon Palace spreads this news? The city lord was rather worried. It shouldn't be that bad. They want us to join the Demon Palace because they want to tie up Qin Feiyang and Madman Amo and prevent them from joining our rogue Cultivator Alliance because of Shaoxian. So, if the Demon Palace is smart enough, they won't spread this news. Because if we are in trouble, Shaoxian will be implicated. If Shaoxian is implicated, Qin Feiyang and Madman Amo will naturally not be happy. This way it will backfire and make Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo unhappy. Elder Yu analyzed. Elder Yu's analysis makes sense. We really can't give Chu Yun an answer now. I personally think we should delay this matter, Zhuo Tianxing said. Until when? The city lord looked at Zhuo Tianxing and asked. Until Qin Feiyang and the others come out of the alliance capital. If what Chu Yun said is true, that the higher-ups of our rogue cultivator alliance are colluding with the Blood Hall, then we have no choice but to join the Demon Palace. No matter how inhuman I am, I can't help the Blood Hall to deal with my hometown. Zhuo Tianxing snorted. That's right. We were born in the Eastern Continent, and this land raised us. We can't tolerate outsiders trampling on it. Elder Yu nodded, and his eyes were also emitting a cold light. The city lord took a deep breath and said, All right then. When Chu Yin comes next time, we might as well tell her directly and wait for Qin Feiyang and the others to come out of the alliance capital before we decide. Zhuo Tianxing and Elder Yu nodded. As a member of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, it was really difficult for them to accept that the Rogue Cultivator Alliance and the Blood Hall might be colluding with Chu Yin. Moreover, Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo sneaked into the alliance capital this time to investigate this matter. However, when they thought about it, it was indeed unusual for the Deputy Alliance leader to want to kill Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo so much. So, they were waiting to see what the truth was. Chapter 30:119. In the blink of an eye, more than 300 years had passed. After constant hard work, Qin Feiyang and Madman's cultivation had stepped into the greater mastery of the imperishable realm. Moreover, Madman had also comprehended the new war law to the third profound. However, Qin Feiyang's harvest was even greater than his. Not only did he comprehend the war law to the third profound, but he also comprehended the slaughter law to the third profound. In other words, now, in terms of the power of laws, Qin Feiyang had officially surpassed Madman. What the hell? The fourth profound is so difficult to comprehend. In the hall of the ancient castle, Qin Feiyang and Madman sat opposite each other. Madman had a distressed expression. He had mastered 4 types of law powers. He had already raised 3 of them to the third profundity. Therefore, when he comprehended the third profundity of the laws of war, he began to comprehend the 4th profundity of the 4 laws. But after so many years, he didn't make much progress. Qin Feiyang shook his head. The difficulty of the 4th profound is indeed far greater than the 3rd profound. He also tried to comprehend the 4th profound. But after tens of thousands of years of meditation, he didn't gain anything. Of course, these tens of thousands of years referred to the time in the Black Tortoise realm. So he decisively gave up and comprehended the 3rd profound of the other types of law powers first. Now Karma Law, Thunder Law, Light Law, War Law, and Slaughter Law had all reached the 3rd profound. Only the Power Law and Wind Law were left. After comprehending the 3rd profound of these 2 types of law powers, he would slowly comprehend the 4th profound. No, I can't lose to you no matter what. Continue. I must comprehend the 4th profound. Madman suddenly stood up and walked towards the cultivation room. Qin Feiyang already had an absolute advantage in terms of quantity, so he could only surpass Qin Feiyang in terms of quality. As long as he comprehended the 4th profound, he would still be the winner. Then you're not going to the Hall of the Exalted? Qin Feiyang was taken aback and quickly asked. Not going, Madman answered without turning his head. Qin Feiyang was stunned. What a stubborn guy. But to be honest, he was relieved that Lunatic was not going to the Hall of the Exalted. First of all, Lunatic's personality was too flamboyant and unbridled. The second was the madman's divine power. Because of the special existence of the evil power, if he was not careful, his identity would be exposed. Therefore, not going was actually a good thing. However, Right now, he and the madman's cultivation were only at the great accomplishment, imperishable stage. It seemed like they didn't have the qualifications to enter the Hall of Fame. Qin Feiyong frowned and fell into deep thought. Did he really have to take the Dragon Phoenix Divine Pill? Boom! Suddenly, a powerful aura descended from the sky above the courtyard. Qin Feiyong was shocked. It seemed to be Elder Qing's aura. He quickly left the castle and appeared in the room. He walked to the window and looked up. He saw Elder Qing standing alone in the void above. In the meantime, Zhao Shaojin and Wang Shui were also alarmed and quickly ran out. Jin, the hall of the exalted trial will begin in 3 days. Are you ready? Elder Qing landed in front of Zhao Shaojin and smiled. Yes. Zhao Shaojin nodded. This old man has high hopes for you. Good luck. Elder Qing smiled encouragingly, then took out a golden badge and gave it to Zhao Shaojin. He then said, "This is the proof of qualification for the trial. You must take good care of it. Without it, you won't be able to enter the trial grounds." Okay. Zhao Shaojin took the badge, her eyes full of expectation. As long as she entered the Hall of the Exalted, she wouldn't have to secretly follow brother Yi Tianin. The most important thing was that she could walk together with brother Yi Tian openly in the future. Suddenly, Zhao Shaojin seemed to have thought of something. She looked at Elder Qing and asked, "What about Mo Wu Hui? Can he register?" In principle, he can't. Although he has comprehended the second profound meaning of the Law of Thunder, his cultivation is still at the small accomplishment, imperishable stage. He is still far from the registration requirements. Elder Qing shook his head. That's a pity. Zhao Shaojin sighed. In principle, you can't, but you can be flexible. A small accomplishment, imperishable stage has comprehended the second profound meaning. To be honest, his talent is not below yours. Such a person is worth cultivating. Elder Qing smiled slightly. Zhao Shaojin asked, "So he can register?" Elder Qing took out another badge and asked with a smile, "Where is Mo Wu Hui?" Zhao Shaojin immediately looked at Qin Feiyong's room. When she saw Qin Feiyong standing in front of the window, she asked, "Where is your brother?" Qin Feiyong flew out of the window and landed in front of Elder Qing. He cupped his hands and said, "Greetings, Elder Qing. No need to be so polite." Elder Qing waved his hand and said with a smile, "Quickly call your brother out." "My brother. He left the Alliance capital." Qin Feiyong pondered for a moment and said, regretfully, "Left?" Elder Qing was stunned. Zhao Shaojin and Wang Shui were also stunned. Did he leave? How come they didn't know? Qin Feiyong looked at the mother and daughter and said with a smile, "My brother didn't want to disturb you, so he left quietly." Then, this old man has been guarding the city wall. Why didn't I see him leave? Elder Qing was suspicious. Qin Feiyong laughed and said, "Then he should have left from another city gate." "I see. Then can you contact him? The opportunity to enter the Hall of Fame is really rare." Elder Qing looked at Qin Feiyong. When he left, he said that he was going to train and didn't want me to disturb him. Qin Feiyong shook his head. "That's a pity." Elder Qing shook his head regretfully. Qin Feiyong said with a smile, "It's not a pity. I can replace my brother." "You?" Elder Qing looked at Qin Feiyong in shock. Zhao Shaojin and Wang Shui were also stunned. Was this something that could be replaced? Elder Qing came back to his senses and said with a smile, "This old man can understand your feelings, but the Hall of Fame is not something that you can replace just because you want to." "I know. In order to reach the immortal realm, you have to comprehend a kind of law power before you are qualified." Qin Feiyong nodded. "Then why did you say that you can replace him? All right, there will be a chance in the future. Work hard." Elder Qing put away the badge and patted Qin Feiyong's shoulder. He smiled comfortingly and turned to leave. Boom! But at this moment, a terrifying battle intent suddenly roared out. Following closely, this battle intent, with Qin Feiyang as the center, formed an invisible domain. Elder Qing, Zhao Shaojin, and Wang Shui were immediately shrouded in comprehension. Zhao Shaojin and her mother suddenly felt a strong sense of oppression in their hearts. And Elder Qing was shocked and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. At this moment, although Qin Feiyang's figure still looked so thin, it was like a god of war had descended. The battle intent revealed. Even a perfect dominator like him felt a sense of oppression from the depths of his heart. "What are you doing?" Zhao Shaojin came back to her senses and looked at Qin Feiyang in surprise. Qin Feiyang smiled and said, "The second profound of the law of war, the battle domain." "You!" Zhao Shaojin was stunned. This guy actually mastered the law power? He really hit it well. I didn't expect that there was a hidden genius in my East City. Great. Elder Qing came back to his senses and immediately nodded with a gratified smile on his face. I really don't deserve to be called a genius. Qin Feiyang shook his head, withdrew the battle domain, and returned to his humble and amiable appearance. Don't be modest. Elder Qing smiled. Then he looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Your cultivation! Cultivation!" Zhao Shaojin also looked at Qin Feiyang and found that Qin Feiyang had broken through to the greater mastery of the imperishable realm. I just broke through. Qin Feiyang smiled. Not bad. The cultivation of the greater mastery of the imperishable realm, plus the second profound of the law of war, is no worse than your brother. You can replace him. After Elder Qing finished speaking, he took out the badge again and handed it to Qin Feiyang. Thank you, Elder Qing. Qin Feiyang bowed respectfully and then sized up the badge. The badge was about the size of a baby's fist and seemed to be made of gold, shining with dazzling brilliance. On the front of the badge, there was the word Alliance engraved with complicated lines. On the back, there was the word Trial engraved. This is called the Trial Badge. I believe you all know its function, so I won't explain more. Prepare well. Elder Qing smiled. Okay. Qin Feiyang and Zhao Shaojin nodded. Then I'll look forward to your performance. Elder Qing laughed in a hoarse voice. Then he turned around and disappeared like lightning. Zhao Shaojin immediately looked at Qin Feiyang and said in surprise, I didn't expect you to be so powerful. Don't be so surprised. You've already comprehended the third profound. What's mine, which is merely the second profound? Qin Feiyang was speechless. That's true. Zhao Shaojin was stunned and nodded with a proud smile. Okay. There are still 3 days. You should go and adjust your state. Shaojin, when you enter the trial, remember to help Feng Yuan. Wang Shui smiled. It depends on my mood. Zhao Shaojin glanced at Qin Feiyang and then turned to enter the attic. This wretched girl. Wang Shui shook her head and smiled at Qin Feiyang. Feng Yuan, don't take offense. My daughter is like this. She has a sharp tongue, but a soft heart. No. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled. What had he not experienced along the way? How could he be calculative with a little girl? Yes, in his eyes, Zhao Shaojin was just a little girl who had not grown up and was not mature yet. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. Morning. Many people rushed to the central city early in the morning. It was very lively. However, most people stopped at the border of the central city and did not dare to take a step forward. This was because the central city was the core area of the Alliance capital. Only the core members of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance were qualified to enter the central city. As for the people in the 4 major districts, they were definitely not qualified to set foot in. At this very moment, in the sky above the square facing the street in the central city, an old man in red was sitting cross-legged in the void. He did not have any aura on him and was like an ordinary old man. He squinted his eyes and seemed to be meditating. As for the crowd gathered outside the square, They looked at the red-clothed old man with eyes full of respect and fear. Obviously, this old man in red had a high status in the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Chapter 3120. Whoosh! Suddenly, accompanied by the sound of something breaking through the air, 5 young men and women flew over from the West City. There were 3 men and 2 women. They looked to be in their 20s. They were tall and had an outstanding temperament. "Greetings, elder." The 5 of them landed in front of the old man in red and bowed. The old man in red did not open his eyes. He said in a hoarse voice, "Where are the trial badges?" The 5 of them quickly took out the trial badges from their arms. The old man in red scanned them with his divine consciousness and fell silent again. The 5 of them also put away the trial badges and stood aside silently. Whoosh! After a while, a few people flew out from the South City and North City. There were a total of 6 people in the South City and 4 in the North City. All of them looked young. The men were handsome and the women were youthful and beautiful. After showing their trial badges, they stood aside and waited silently like the 5 people from the West City. At the same time, East City, why are you 2 only here now? In the sky above the city, Lord's mansion, Zhang Sanbao looked at Qin Feiyang and Zhao Shaojin who were flying over and frowned. Zhao Shaojin said indifferently, "Isn't there still some time before sunrise? What's the hurry?" "The appointed time is indeed sunrise, but we can't let them wait. At least during the first meeting, we have to leave a good impression on the Hall of the Exalted Elders." Zhang Sanbao was helpless. "All right, let's go," Zhao Shaojin said with a hint of impatience in his tone. "Okay," Zhang Sanbao nodded. At that moment, the 3 of them flew side by side toward the central city. Zhang Sanbao glanced at Qin Feiyang and then at Zhao Shaojin. He seemed to have something to say. "Brother Zhang, you can speak your mind." Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Zhang Sanbao was stunned. He did not expect to be seen through. He could not help but smile and said suspiciously, "I remember that the one who participated in the trial was your brother? Why is it you now?" "My brother is going to train and left the Alliance capital, so I'm taking his place." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. "You're taking his place?" Zhang Sanbao was stunned. Could anyone take his place in the trial of the Hall of the Exalted Elders? "Why are you gossiping like a woman? Since Elder Qing allowed him to replace him, it means that he has the qualifications." Zhao Shaojin glanced at Zhang Sanbao and said calmly, Yes, it's my fault, my fault," Zhang Sanbao nodded repeatedly. When Qin Feiyang saw this scene, he couldn't help but laugh in his heart. Even a fool could tell that Zhang Sanbao had feelings for Zhao Shaojin. But the falling flowers are willing, but the heartless flowing water is heartless. Zhao Xiaojin's thoughts were all on Yi Tian. As for Zhang Sanbao's identity, he more or less knew that Zhang Sanbao was the son of the East City Lord. He had a cultivation base at the great circle of the imperishable realm and had comprehended a type of law. It could be said that in the Alliance capital, Zhang Sanbao could be considered someone with a certain status and position. Unfortunately, his love rival was Yi Tian. As the eldest grandson of the Vice Alliance leader and the top genius of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, Zhang Sanbao was nothing compared to him. Actually, this had nothing to do with Qin Feiyang, and he was too lazy to ask about it. Now, he only hoped that Zhang Sanbao wouldn't hate him. Because he had been living in Zhao Xiaojin's house all these years, he was worried that Zhang Sanbao would misunderstand and see him as a love rival. At that time, there would definitely be a lot of trouble. About 100 breaths. The 3 of them finally entered the sky above the square. Those who are related to young Master Yi Tian are indeed different, making everyone wait here. It doesn't matter if we wait, but it's not appropriate to let the Hall of the Exalted Elders wait like this. After all, even young Master Yi Tian himself has to be polite to the elders. As soon as the 3 of them arrived, the dozen people from the West City, North City, and South City all sneered. "I'm sorry." Zhang Sanbao smiled apologetically. One of the young men in black said, "Hurry up. Don't waste everyone's time. We're all very busy." Sorry. Zhang Sanbao said apologetically and took out his trial badge. Qin Feiyang and Zhao Xiaojin also took out their badges. The old man in red finally opened his eyes, looked at the badges of the three, and said, "Where's Emo Wu Hui?" Zhang Sanbao said respectfully, "Elder, Emo Wu Hui went out to gain experience, so Emo Wu Yuan took his place." What? The Hall of the Exalted Assessment actually went out to gain experience. Who does he think he is? So disdainful of the Hall of the Exalted? Besides, this is the Hall of the Exalted Assessment. How can others take his place? What a joke! Do you think this is child's play? The people from the other 3 districts immediately sneered again. Zhao Xiaojin raised his eyebrows and said, "Do you have nothing better to do? You've taken care of yourself, and now you want to take care of others?" Hee. People related to young Master Yi Tian, even the tone of their speech is different. A red-clothed woman chuckled. "Who knows me? Zhao Xiaojin doesn't know that I always speak like this. What does it have to do with brother Yi Tian? I think you're just looking for trouble. Why don't you stop talking nonsense? If you're not happy, come out and fight." Zhao Xiaojin looked at the woman in red provocatively. A cold light flashed in the woman in red's eyes, and she sneered and said, "We don't dare. If anything happens and young Master Yi Tian investigates, we can't bear the responsibility." "Shut up if you don't dare," Zhao Xiaojin shouted coldly without mercy. "You," the woman in red's face turned cold. "Enough." At this time, the elder of the Hall of the Exalted spoke. Everyone immediately fell silent. The elder glanced at Qin Feiyang and said indifferently, "Since you are replacing your brother, and you only have the cultivation of great success Undying Realm, the fact that old man Qing gave you the trial badge means that you also have the qualifications. Work hard." "Yes, elder." Qin Feiyang nodded. "All right then, give it to this old man." The elder of the Hall of the Exalted glanced at the crowd, then turned and flew to the center of the Central District. More than a dozen young men and women from the West City, North City, and South City glanced at Qin Feiyang and quickly followed. I didn't expect him to be only at the Immortal Realm. Yes, the Immortal Realm in the Immortal Realm is qualified for the trial. It seems that he can't be underestimated. Not necessarily. Maybe it's Elder Qing who asked him to make up the number. More than a dozen young men were secretly discussing. At the rear, Qin Feiyang and the other 2 were still walking side by side. I knew something would happen. Zhang Sanbao sighed. "We're all of the same age. Why are you afraid of them?" Zhao Xiaojin rolled his eyes at Zhang Sanbao. "I'm not afraid. I'm worried that they'll join forces. Look, 5 people from the East City, 6 from the South City, and 4 from the North City. We have the least people in the East City, only 3 of us. This situation is already very bad for us. If they join forces, our situation will be even more worrying." Zhang Sanbao was worried. "Useless." Zhao Xiaojin pursed his lips. "Well, I'm useless. I'm useless." Zhang Sanbao shook his head helplessly and turned to look at Qin Feiyang. "Brother Wu Yuan, I also know some things about you. You should also know the rules of the trial, right? You know about me?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "Yes, I heard that it's the first time you and your brother came to the Alliance capital." Zhang Sanbao smiled. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with an imperceptible light. He smiled and said, "I didn't expect Brother Zhang to be so well informed." It was obvious. This Zhang Sanbao had investigated him and Madman. "After all, I'm in the city lord's mansion. News comes quickly. Since you don't know the rules, then I'll tell you." Zhang Sanbao smiled. "I'd like to hear the details." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. The training ground is in a space that is isolated from the rest of the world. It is said that there are a lot of divine objects and beasts inside. It is a place where opportunities and dangers coexist. So when we go in later, I really don't want to be enemies with people from the other 3 districts. Because if we are targeted by them, then the chances of us passing the trial will be very slim. Zhang Sanbao sighed. Listening to what you said, those who participate in the trial can kill each other? Qin Feiyang was stunned. That's right. Do as you wish. Zhang Sanbao nodded. This isn't right. We're all from the Alliance capital. It's not easy to comprehend the power of law. If we die because of the trial, wouldn't it be a loss for our rogue cultivator alliance? Qin Feiyang frowned. That's right. Every person who has comprehended the power of law is as rare as a phoenix feather or a Qilin horn. The higher-ups will naturally not let us suffer any casualties. Zhang Sanbao nodded. Qin Feiyang was stunned and asked suspiciously, if there are no casualties, then what's the point of this trial? Of course there's a point. This is a trial that tests one's combat awareness, ability to deal with things, and brains. In short, whether you pass the trial or not, as long as you get the trial badge, you can enter the Hall of the Exalted. However, the treatment for those who pass the trial and those who don't are very different. Zhang Sanbao explained. So that's the case. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and asked curiously, what's the difference between those who pass the trial and those who don't? Those who pass the trial can directly enter the core of the Hall of the Exalted and enjoy the best cultivation resources and environment. You should know that the Hall of the Exalted has a time array, and those who pass the trial can directly enter the space-time law to cultivate. Zhang Sanbao said. I see. Qin Feiyang nodded and asked, what about those who don't pass the trial? Those who don't pass the trial can only stay in the outer sect of the Hall of the Exalted. Do you know how the core disciples address the outer sect disciples? Handyman. In other words, handymen. I don't know what you and Xiaojin are thinking, but I really don't want to stay in the outer sect and be ordered around as a handyman. Zhang Sanbao shook his head. There's actually such a rule. Qin Feiyang frowned. It seemed that in order to get close to the deputy chief, he had to become a core disciple. Don't worry, no matter how they unite to deal with us. I will definitely lead you to pass the trial and become a core disciple of the Hall of the Exalted. Xiaojin said coldly. Qin Feiyang and Zhang Sanbao looked at each other and shook their heads with a bitter smile at the same time. This woman was really domineering. Looking at her, she didn't put the people from the other 3 districts in her eyes at all. Chapter 30:121. The Central City District was made up of many houses. Every single house was extremely large. Even the smallest house was several miles in size. There were many halls, high and low, and they were magnificent. According to the secular world, if the 4 major districts were slums, then the Central City District was the rich district. Although there weren't any spacious streets or bustling streets, every place was luxurious, because the people who lived in the Central City District were all core figures of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. They were either powerful or had extraordinary abilities. In short, none of the people who could live here were ordinary people. The group passed through the city, and about 100 breaths later, they appeared in the sky above a square. The square was about 10,000 feet wide, and there was a teleportation passage that looked like a spatial rift. On one side of the square, there was a stone tablet. The stone tablet was engraved with the words "Training Grounds" in a flamboyant style. The elder led a group of more than 10 people to the square and said indifferently, "This is the entrance to the trial ground." Everyone looked at the entrance curiously. I won't say much about the rules. Whether you can pass the trial will depend on your own ability. There will be people waiting for you on the other side. Go in. With that, the elder turned around and retreated to the side. The people from the West City, South City, and North City looked at each other and stepped into the space-time passage one after another. "Be careful." Zhang Sanbao looked at the backs of those people and secretly warned with a serious expression. Zhao Xiaojin glanced at Zhang Sanbao, then looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "After you go in, don't run around. Stay by my side at all times." "Okay," Qin Feiyang replied secretly. She was going to protect him. Sure. Coincidentally, he was too lazy to make a move. However, when he entered the space-time passage, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed with a hint of suspicion. Inside the space-time passage, everything was pitch black. However, Qin Feiyang could clearly feel that his body was shuttling through at a terrifying speed. "Xiaojin, didn't your father say that it's impossible to activate altars or space-time teleportation in the Alliance? But why is there a space-time passage here?" Qin Feiyang asked secretly. Zhao Xiaojin transmitted. It said that this space-time tunnel was personally set up by the Alliance Master. "I see." Qin Feiyang nodded in understanding. The Azure Wave Snow Mountains barrier was created by the Alliance Master, so he naturally had the ability to set up a space-time passage here. Just now, the Elder of the Hall of the Exalted said that someone is waiting for us on the other side. Then what does it mean? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. The entrance and exit of the trial grounds are in different places. In other words, the entrance is in the central city, and the exit is somewhere else. Zhao Xiaojin thought to himself, "Does that mean that the Hall of the Exalted is not in the League capital?" Qin Feiyang was bewildered. "Yes, I didn't. But it's also in the Kanglan Snow Mountain, in a place west of the city. You'll know when you pass the trial." Zhao Xiaojin thought to himself. Qin Feiyang's eyes lit up. It seemed that what he knew was only the tip of the iceberg of the rogue Cultivator Alliance. Ahead, finally, a ray of light appeared. As they continued forward, the light became more and more dazzling. After a few breaths, they flew out of the space-time passage and landed in the sky above a majestic mountain range. As far as the eye could see, they were surrounded by an endless mountain range. The towering peaks were like giant swords, towering into the sky and exuding a majestic aura. The majestic mountain ranges were like giant dragons lying on the ground. However, there were not many plants in the mountains, and the spiritual essence here was very thin. It could only be described as desolate. The scariest thing was that even though there were countless fierce beasts here, it was very quiet. Although we have brought a lot of divine crystals, the spiritual essence here is too thin. It's best not to engage in meaningless battles here, so as not to waste divine power. Zhang Sanbao whispered. If the spiritual essence was too thin, they could only rely on divine crystals and divine power pills to replenish their divine power. Qin Feiyang did not mind. There were countless divine crystals in the Black Tortoise realm. As for divine power pills, as long as he wanted them, Dan Wangkai could make him a pile in minutes. However, the atmosphere of the trial grounds made him feel a little uncomfortable. It was too quiet. "Let's go." Zhao Xiaojin glanced at the dozen people in the other 3 districts and flew forward. Qin Feiyang and Zhang Sanbao followed closely behind. At the same time, the dozen people in the other 3 districts looked at each other, and their eyes flashed with a hint of viciousness. Swish! Following closely behind, more than a dozen people moved out in unison. They used auxiliary divine techniques and surrounded Qin Feiyang and the other 2 like lightning. Zhao Xiaojin raised his eyebrows and stopped in the void. Qin Feiyang was stunned. Were all the people in the Alliance capital so direct? They attacked as soon as they came in. Zhang Sanbao's expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly said with a smile, "Everyone, what is the meaning of this?" "It has nothing to do with you." A purple-clothed youth in the West City spoke. "It has nothing to do with me?" Zhang Sanbao was stunned. So they were here for Zhao Xiaojin and Mo Yuanchu. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he said with a smile, "I don't think we've done anything to offend you." "No, you haven't. But we just don't like you and don't want you to pass the trial." The red-clothed woman, who had been competing with Zhao Shaojin, looked at Qin Feiyang and Zhao Shaojin and sneered. "Don't like you? This reason is a bit lame. We're with Zhang Sanbao, but you don't target him and only target us." "I'm afraid it's not as simple as you say," Qin Feiyang said with a smile. "You're quite smart." The red-clothed woman looked at Qin Feiyang mockingly. Zhao Shaojin frowned and said, "Cut the crap. What do you want? Just say it." "I want you all to die here." The red-clothed woman's eyes were filled with killing intent, and her divine power roared out as she slapped toward Zhao Shaojin. "You think you can do that?" Zhao Shaojin smiled coldly, raised her jade-like hand and punched. Although it looked thin and weak, it contained terrifying power. Boom! The fist and the palm met. Both of them took a few steps back at the same time, because the red-clothed woman was also at the perfect undead realm. Their cultivation and strength were the same. "How dare you be so arrogant by yourself?" The purple-clothed young man in the west side of the city roared, and he also dove and punched toward Zhao Shaojin. He was also at the perfect undead realm. Zhao Shaojin stabilized her body, and instead of retreating, she moved forward, and her divine power surged out of her palm. Boom! The fist and the palm collided again. After 2 consecutive exchanges, Zhao Xiaojin's face couldn't help but turn pale. "Genius girl of the east side of the city, I'd like to see what you're capable of." The red-clothed woman sneered, and immediately attacked Zhao Shaojin with the purple-clothed young man. "Brother Weiyuan, let's retreat first." Zhang Sanbao pulled Qin Feiyang and retreated far away. Qin Feiyang looked at Zhang Sanbao and frowned. "Brother Zhang, are you really letting a woman fight them alone?" "What else? There are so many of them. We can't beat them at all. But don't worry, I'll try my best to talk to them." Zhang Sanbao comforted him, then looked at the other 13 people in the 3 districts and said anxiously, "Everyone, can we talk nicely?" "It's none of your business. Shut up," the black-clothed young man shouted. Qin Feiyang looked at Zhang Sanbao's performance and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. It was no wonder that Zhao Shaojin didn't like him, and it was also no wonder that Zhao Yang didn't like him. This person was really useless. The woman he liked was already in danger, and he still wanted to negotiate? To put it nicely, it was called being indecisive and looking at the big picture. To put it bluntly, it was called having no backbone and being timid. How could such a person make a woman like him? Looking at Zhao Shaojin again, even if it was 1 against 2, she wasn't at a disadvantage at all. The terrifying battle fluctuations were earth-shattering, and the mountains and rivers below collapsed one after another. This battle awareness is not bad. There was a trace of praise in Qin Feiyang's eyes. In comparison, Zhao Xiaojin's battle awareness and experience were above the purple-clothed young man and the red-clothed woman. However, it was hard to say who would win or lose. After all, neither of them had used all their strength yet. Brother Zhang, they are so bold. Aren't they afraid of being punished by the Hall of the Exalted Elders? Qin Feiyang suddenly transmitted his voice. Zhang Sanbao said to himself, "What happens here? The outside doesn't know at all." "So you're saying that no matter what we do here, no one will know?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "That's right. So this is the problem I'm worried about. If they really fall out, even if they kill us, they can completely blame it on the beasts in the trial ground. At that time, we will all die in vain." Zhang Sanbao said gloomily. "Is that so?" Qin Feiyang nodded. Zhang Sanbao said angrily, "If we can use the heaven-defying artifact here, I have some confidence." "What do you mean?" Qin Feiyang was stunned. "It means that this trial ground can't activate the heaven-defying artifact and heaven-defying divine technique," Zhang Sanbao said in a deep voice. There is such a rule? Qin Feiyong was surprised. Yes. Zhang Sanbao nodded. What about the power of law and other divine techniques and artifacts? Qin Feiyong was curious. As long as it's not a heaven-defying artifact or divine technique, everything else is fine. Zhang Sanbao said. So that's the case. Then this is considered a good thing. Qin Feiyong muttered. Good thing? Zhang Sanbao was stunned. Yes. Since you said so, you should have a heaven-defying artifact on you. Since you have it, I'm afraid they have one or two too. If they can really activate the heaven-defying artifact, then our situation will be even worse, right? Qin Feiyong laughed secretly. Zhang Sanbao heard this and thought carefully before nodding. That makes sense. Qin Feiyong said, All right, we can't sit back and do nothing. Quickly go and help. But Zhang Sanbao was a little hesitant. You're at the peak undead stage. What are you afraid of? Qin Feiyong frowned. But the other party also has a peak undead stage, and there are 6 of them. Zhang Sanbao glanced at the other side, at the 13 people who were also watching the battle, and frowned. Among the 13 people, 7 of them were at the peak undead stage, like the purple-clothed young man and the red-clothed woman, and the other 6 were at the peak undead stage. Chapter 3. Release at 10 a.m. Chapter 31:22. Looking at the overcautious Zhang Sanbao, Qin Feiyong completely gave up. This person was hopeless. Originally, he wanted to help Zhang Sanbao. He could predict that Yi Tian would not be together with Zhao Xiaojin, so Zhang Sanbao still had a chance. However, the prerequisite was that he had to be like a man and face all dangers. However, he did not expect it to be like this. With his personality, he could do a small business, but it would never be possible for him to do anything big. Boom! The battle between Zhao Xiaojin and the purple-clad youth became more and more intense. The 3 of them had already begun to use their divine techniques and divine artifacts. With their status, they naturally had Paragon-grade divine artifacts and divine techniques. The collision of divine techniques, divine artifacts, and divine power caused the world to dim. The beasts below were also alarmed. However, other than a few beasts, most of them were watching the battle from afar. They did not seem to be afraid. As expected of the East City's genius girl, she can actually fight with the 2 of them until now. A muscular young man spoke. He was at the peak of the Undying Realm and was 2 meters tall. He was burly and valiant, like a giant. That's just a struggle before death. A green-clad youth next to him laughed sinisterly. He was about 7 meters tall, and his body was so thin that he was just skin and bones, just like a bamboo pole. His eyes were even more peculiar. They were long and narrow like a snake's eyes. They were suffused with a cold light. That's right, a struggle before death. The muscular young man laughed loudly. His voice was like thunder. Boom! However, just as the muscular young man laughed, the law of light appeared along with the sound of a sword. Zhao Xiaojin grabbed the sword of light and slashed at the purple-clad youth and the green-clad youth. Law of light, sword of light. The 2 men's expressions changed abruptly. Caught off guard, they hurriedly retreated and narrowly avoided this fatal sword strike. A struggle before death. Are you talking about me? Zhao Xiaojin pointed her sword at the muscular young man and the green-clad youth. Yes, I'm talking about you. The muscular young man nodded. All right then, come and die. The sword of light in Zhao Xiaojin's hand trembled, and a destructive light immediately rushed toward the muscular young man. Do you really think you're invincible just because you have the law of light? Defeat us first. The purple-clothed young man and the red-clothed woman shouted as they activated their power of law at the same time. The purple-robed youth waved his hand and a fiery light rushed out. In the next moment, a scarlet-red battle blade appeared. As the woman in red raised her hand, a wave of water surged and turned into a 3-foot-long divine bow. The first profundity of the laws of fire, blade of fire. The first profundity of the law of water, water gods bow. Humph! You dare to be arrogant with just the first profound? Zhao Shaojin snorted coldly and no longer held back. He immediately activated his third profound, Holy Radiant Sword. Clang! After a series of clashes, the blade of fire and the water god Bao shattered on the spot. The purple-clothed young man and the red-clothed woman were also injured by the terrifying sword qi and were forced to retreat. In just an instant, their bodies were drenched in blood. It really is the third profound. When the young man and the others saw this, their eyes could not help but darken. They had already heard about the battle with Feng Wanyan back then. This woman was indeed not easy to deal with. The purple-clothed young man and the red-clothed woman looked at each other, their eyes filled with unwillingness and jealousy. They were all from the younger generation of the Alliance capital. In terms of age, they were all older than Zhao Shaojin. However, they had only comprehended the first profound. But Zhao Shaojin had already taken out the third profound. Let me do it. The young man took a step forward, and a terrifying power of law immediately surged out. The surrounding void immediately began to collapse. This is Qin Feiyang's pupils constricted. This power of law was formless and colorless, but one could clearly feel a vigorous aura. That's right, this was the power of law. If it was 300 years ago, I would definitely not be your match because my power of law had only comprehended the second profound. But now, if I want to kill you, it will be as easy as flipping my hand. The young man smiled proudly, and his 2-meter tall body began to expand. The violent power around him became more and more terrifying. Finally, a giant that was 10,000 feet tall appeared before everyone's eyes. That's right, it was 10,000 feet tall. It was like a towering mountain. 10,000 feet tall divine body. The young man opened his mouth, and his voice was deafening like thunder. As his voice fell, his mountain-like giant hand covered the sky as it slapped toward Zhao Shaojin. The void and the earth shattered and collapsed. It was like the scene of the end of the world, not to mention his 10,000 feet tall divine body. Even in the hands of his giant beast, Zhao Shaojin was like a tiny ant. But Zhao Shaojin did not retreat at all. The holy radiance sword shone brightly as it slashed toward the giant hand. Clang! The young man's giant hand stopped in the void, but it was immediately shattered by the holy radiance sword. Zhao Shaojin also spat out a mouthful of blood, and his face turned pale. 10,000 feet tall divine body! This is the third profound of the power of law. At this moment, his physical body and strength have reached the level of a high-grade, heaven-defying divine object. In addition, his cultivation is higher than Xiaojin's by a small realm, so Xiaojin is not his match. Zhang Sanbao said in a deep voice, "So, the profound of the power of law is mainly to strengthen the physical body and strength?" Qin Feiyang asked. Although he had already grasped the power of law, he still did not understand the profound of the power of law. That's right. The first profound, a 100 feet tall divine body, is equivalent to a low-grade, heaven-defying divine object. The second profound, a 100 feet tall divine body, is equivalent to a mid-grade, heaven-defying divine object. The third profound, a 10,000 feet tall divine body. The fourth profound, a 10,000 feet tall divine body, is comparable to a pinnacle heaven-defying divine object. I'm not his match. Although I'm also at the peak imperishable stage, I've only comprehended the first profound of the power of law. Anyway, I can't continue like this, or else you'll really die. Zhang Sanbao panicked. Go to hell. At this moment, the young man's roar was like the sound of a heavenly bell. The giant hand that had been blocked by the holy radiance sword slammed toward Zhao Shaojin again. Boom! Zhao Shaojin smashed into the ground like a meteor. A huge pit appeared. Zhao Shaojin lay at the bottom of the pit, his body covered in blood. Shaojin! Zhang Sanbao roared. You'd better not move, or we'll kill you, even if you're the son of the East City Lord. The man in green looked at Zhang Sanbao coldly. Zhang Sanbao shrank his neck, his eyes full of fear. Qin Feiyang glanced at Zhang Sanbao. It seemed that he couldn't count on this person, so he had to do it. Swish! He teleported and landed beside Zhao Shaojin, smiling. Are you okay? I won't die yet. Zhao Shaojin got up with Qin Feiyang's help, took out a divine life pill, and threw it into his mouth. You can't even protect yourself, and you still have the mood to care about her? The young man looked down at Qin Feiyang from above, his eyes filled with contempt. Qin Feiyang looked up at the young man and smiled. The people you want to kill are Zhao Shaojin and my brother, right? That's right. It's your brother. But since your brother went to train, we can only kill you first to collect some interest. The young man said. I understand. Qin Feiyang nodded. Understand what? The young man was stunned. Qin Feiyang said, Feng Wanyan should be behind all of this. The young man's pupils constricted. The man in green and the others couldn't help but look at each other and frown. Are you wondering how I thought of this? It's actually very simple. This is the first time we brothers have come to the Alliance capital. Other than Feng Wanyan, we haven't offended anyone else. I was wondering why Feng Wanyan didn't come looking for trouble with us after being humiliated by Zhao Shaojin and my brother. Could it be that he has changed his mind and doesn't want to bother with us? So he's waiting for the trial to open and tampering with the trial grounds. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Ha, smart. But smart people don't live long. The robust young man roared with laughter as he withdrew his hand that was like a mountain, and then he clenched it into a fist that shattered space and the earth as he smashed it towards Qin Feiyang and the young man. Step back! Qin Feiyang was about to make a move when Zhao Shaojin, who was behind him, pushed Qin Feiyang away. Qin Feiyang wasn't prepared at all. He almost stumbled and fell. What are you doing? He steadied himself and looked at Zhao Shaojin in confusion. With your cultivation level, you're not enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. Zhao Shaojin snorted coldly. Ah, Qin Feiyang was stunned. All right, don't cause trouble for me. Just step aside and watch. Zhao Shaojin waved her hands. Create trouble? Qin Feiyang felt somewhat helpless. She was really a domineering woman. However, this feeling of being protected was quite satisfying. Although Zhao Shaojin was a woman. All right, he would watch then. Since she was so confident, she should have a trump card. Whoosh! Qin Feiyang returned to Zhang Sanbao's side in an instant. She's too stubborn. Zhang Sanbao frowned. I quite admire her. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. How can you still smile? I'm almost worried to death. Zhang Sanbao glared at Qin Feiyang angrily. We'll cross the bridge when we get there. There's nothing to worry about. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Bang! Click! In the blink of an eye, the burly young man's huge fist had already landed. The law of force. Zhao Shaojin looked up at the fist and sneered. It's indeed very powerful. However, you don't have the ability to kill you. Bang! As soon as she finished speaking, Zhao Shaojin's aura suddenly soared. In just an instant, her cultivation level rose to the perfected, indestructible realm. This, Zhang Sanbao, the man in green, and the rest were instantly stunned. When did she break through to the perfected, indestructible realm? I see. Qin Feiyang also had a look of realization. It turned out that she was hiding her cultivation level. It was no wonder that she was fearless. However, Zhao Shaojin had personally said that she had just broken through to the perfected, indestructible realm. How did she enter the perfected, indestructible realm so quickly? Clang! Just as everyone was feeling bewildered, Zhao Shaojin waved her hands. The law of light surged, and the holy light sword appeared again. She grabbed the holy light sword and leaped into the sky. Her aura was like a rainbow, and she slashed at the burly young man's fist. Chapter 31:23. Boom! Along with an earth-shattering explosion, the holy radiant sword and the muscular youth's giant hand collided. A wave of destructive energy instantly spread out in all directions, with this place as the center. The void shattered and the ground collapsed. Qin Feiyang and the others could not help but retreat. Ah! The muscular youth screamed in pain. A wound had appeared on his giant palm that was comparable to a high-grade, godly object. Blood was gushing out, but at the same time, a crack also appeared on the holy radiant sword. Zhao Shaojin also had blood dripping from the corner of her mouth, because the muscular youth's body was also a third profound. Its power was comparable to the holy radiant sword. In addition, both of their cultivations were the same, so it was a tie. The tip of the holy radiance sword kept colliding with the muscular youth's palm. Dazzling sparks shot out. The muscular youth was clearly made of flesh and blood, but he was actually so powerful. The law of force was indeed extraordinary. Suppress! The muscular youth roared. His voice was like thunder shaking the heavens and earth. A terrifying power surged out from his palm. It was like a mountain that covered the sky. Zhao Shaojin, who was below, was like a tiny ant. However, Zhao Shaojin did not show any signs of being suppressed. The law of light frantically surged into the holy radiant sword. Sword Qi roared in all directions and fought with the muscular youth. Genius girl, I can't accept this. What are you dawdling for? Kill her. The woman in red stared at Zhao Shaojin. Her eyes were filled with envy, jealousy, and hatred as she roared at the muscular youth. The muscular youth also felt a great sense of humiliation. He was a 7-foot-tall muscular man, but he could not deal with a woman? The anger in his heart was like a volcano that could not be controlled. The law of force continuously surged into his arm. The power that poured out became more and more terrifying. However, no matter how hard he tried, he could not suppress Zhao Shaojin. In the hearts of you men, should women be naturally weaker than you? What a laughable thought! Zhao Shaojin smiled coldly. Then she suddenly retreated. She used an auxiliary technique and instantly appeared behind the muscular youth. Although the young man's body had grown larger, his movements were not slow at all. He quickly turned around and punched Zhao Shaojin. In this world, no one can be underestimated, especially us women. Zhao Shaojin's eyes flashed with a cold light. He grabbed the radiant saint's sword with both hands and dodged slightly, dodging the young man's fist. His aura roared as he slashed at the young man's left shoulder. Clang! Rumble! The two met in an instant. The radiant sacred sword shattered with a loud bang. Zhao Shaojin was also sent flying, his face pale, but at the same time, the burly young man also let out a painful howl. A wound appeared on his left shoulder, and blood spurted out. The next moment, the entire arm fell off from the shoulder and smashed into the ground with a loud boom like a mountain. That was right. Although Zhao Shaojin was heavily injured, one of the muscular young man's arms was also chopped off. The blood from the wound poured out like a waterfall and dyed the sky red. Stinking bitch! I'll kill you! The young man was enraged. He raised his other arm and smashed it toward Zhao Shaojin. Your mouth is so dirty. Zhao Shaojin stabilized herself in the air and dodged the young man's arm. She soared into the sky. In just an instant, she was above the young man's head. The radiant sacred sword appeared once again. Die! With a fierce roar, she flipped in the air. Her feet were facing up while her head was facing down. She grabbed the radiant sacred sword tightly with both hands and stabbed it towards the young man's head like a meteor. The young man had already lost an arm. The other arm that was aimed at Zhao Shaojin did not have time to retract. So now he did not have time to counterattack. No! Feeling the bone-piercing sharpness, he could not help but roar in horror. However, Zhao Shaojin was not moved at all. The radiant sacred sword went straight for the young man's head. Whether it was a human or a beast, the head was more fragile than other places. If Zhao Shaojin really succeeded in this attack, then the young man would definitely be annihilated in body and soul. A wave of fear drowned the young man. However, at this moment, the green-clothed man and the others who were observing looked at each other and soared into the sky at the same time. Boom! All kinds of law profundities were activated in an instant as they attacked Zhao Shaojin. You guys are too despicable, Zhang Sanbao roared. Zhao Shaojin was also shocked. She did not expect these people to be so shameless as to attack her together. Do you only know how to shout here? Don't you know that this is a sign of incompetence? Qin Feiyang glanced at Zhang Sanbao, shook his head and sighed. Zhang Sanbao was a little angry, but before he could speak, he saw Qin Feiyang erupt with a monstrous aura. The law of thunder surged out. At the top of the clouds, thunder dragons appeared, exuding a destructive, heavenly might. The third profound, the wrath of thunder. The group of people immediately raised their heads and looked at the thunder dragons in surprise. With me here, do you have the right to hurt her? Qin Feiyang was incomparably domineering. The thunder dragons instantly merged together and turned into a huge dragon. It roared from the sky and charged towards the green-clothed man and the others. Damn it! This is the law of thunder, the third profound. The green-clothed man roared. What? It's the third profound again. The expressions of the others changed. They no longer cared about the life or death of the young man and joined forces to attack the thunder dragons. Zhao Shaojin also looked at the thunder dragons in shock, and then killing intent surged in her eyes. The tip of the sacred radiance slammed into the young man's head. Crack! With an ear-piercing crack, the young man's head began to crack. At this moment, the fear in the young man's heart rose to an unprecedented level. Don't kill me! He bellowed, but it was useless. Zhao Shaojin roared and poured the law of light into the sacred radiance, causing it to become even sharper than before. Crack! With another crisp sound, the young man's skull shattered on the spot. The holy radiance's body tempering sword directly entered the young man's head. Go to hell! Just as the hilt of the sacred radiance was about to plunge into the young man's head, Zhao Shaojin slammed her palm against the hilt. The sacred radiance was like an arrow, piercing through the young man's sea of consciousness and shattering his soul. It then pierced through his neck, pulverizing his organs, and came out from below. Ah! The young man screamed at the sky, his remaining arm flailing wildly in an attempt to kill Zhao Shaojin. But how could Zhao Shaojin let him have his way? In a few moments, she had retreated far away. After struggling for a while, the young man collapsed to the ground with a loud bang, dying on the spot. At the same time, the green-clothed man and the others clashed with the thunder dragons. More than a dozen people had joined forces, and all of them had activated their law of intent. In fact, 3 of them had even comprehended the second profundity of their laws. But even so, they did not immediately destroy the thunder dragons. The thunder dragons were like the incarnation of the god of thunder, terrifying beyond compare. Even though they were destroyed in the end, the dozen or so people suffered varying degrees of injuries. If not for their cultivation being higher than Qin Feiyang's, this attack would have been enough to kill them all. Brother Fateless, you. On the side, Zhang Sanbao was also dumbfounded. He had never imagined that this person whom he had always looked down upon would actually be the same as Zhao Shaojin and have already comprehended the third profundity. However, compared to Zhang Sanbao, Zhao Shaojin was even more shocked. Because Zhang Sanbao did not know the law of war, but Zhao Shaojin knew. The second profound of the law of war and the third profound of the law of thunder. This bastard had hidden it so deeply. After so many years, there was no trace of it at all. On the other side, the green-clothed man and the others were also staring at Qin Feiyang. They had never imagined that the person they had constantly mocked and ridiculed from the beginning had hidden such terrifying strength. Below, the young man's vitality had completely dissipated. When they saw the young man's corpse, the group of people was stunned again. A complete, imperishable stage cultivator who had comprehended the third profound of the law of strength had died at Zhao Xiaojin's hands just like that? How could this woman be so strong? Whoosh! Zhao Xiaojin took a deep breath and swallowed another divine life pill. She landed beside Qin Feiyang and said in a low voice, "I'll settle this with you later." Settle this with me? Qin Feiyang was stunned. What was going on? In any case, he was the one who had saved her. Not only did she not say a word of gratitude, she actually wanted to settle this with him? Women were indeed unreasonable creatures. Zhao Xiaojin ignored Qin Feiyang and looked up at the green-clothed man and the others. She sneered and said, "You should be prepared to die." Die. If Mo Fateless hadn't stopped us, you would be a corpse now. The green-clothed man laughed sinisterly. You have the nerve to say that? Even if Mo Fateless attacked, there were only 2 of us. What about you? 3 districts, a total of 15 people. This is your ability. Zhao Xiaojin's face was full of disdain. Don't be arrogant, the red-clothed woman shouted. That's right. Although Mo Fateless has comprehended the third profound, you still have to die. The green-clothed man laughed sinisterly. Is that so? Then let me have a look. Zhao Xiaojin waved her hand, and the holy light sword appeared. She took a step forward and charged towards the green-clothed man and the others. However, at the same time, the green-clothed man and the others sneered even more. Qin Feiyang looked at this scene and couldn't help but frown. What's going on? They were all so fearless. Could it be that they still had some tricks up their sleeves? Or was there someone among them who was hiding their cultivation? Just as Qin Feiyang was deep in thought, he suddenly felt a trace of killing intent behind him. He was suddenly shocked. But before he could react, he felt a pain in his lower abdomen. He looked down and saw a blood-stained sword tip on his lower abdomen. Blood flowed down the tip of the sword drop by drop. Sorry. It was also at this moment. An apologetic voice sounded behind Qin Feiyang. Chapter 31:24. Qin Feiyang's heart trembled. He turned around and saw Zhang Sanbao looking at him with a sneer. He looked at Zhang Sanbao's hand and saw that he was holding a thin sword. Why? Qin Feiyang did not expect that Zhang Sanbao would sneak an attack on him. Zhao Xiaojin also noticed the commotion behind him. He stopped suspiciously and turned around to look at Qin Feiyang. When she saw the tip of the sword on Qin Feiyang's lower abdomen, her expression changed drastically. She said furiously, "Zhang Sanbao, what are you doing?" "I'm sorry, Xiaojin. I have to do this." Zhang Sanbao smiled faintly. Whoosh! Zhao Xiaojin's face darkened. She landed in front of Qin Feiyang. Zhang Sanbao pulled out his long sword and retreated quickly. "Take this." Zhao Xiaojin took out a primordial sea divine pill and quickly fed it to Qin Feiyang. At the same time, the man in green and the rest also surrounded them. Their faces were full of cold smiles. Zhao Xiaojin glanced at the group of people and then looked at Zhang Sanbao. Her face was full of disappointment. "You don't have to show such an expression. If it was in the past, I would definitely feel guilty. But now it doesn't matter." Zhang Sanbao shook his head and smiled. "Why?" Zhao Xiaojin asked. She found Zhang Sanbao's actions more unacceptable than Qin Feiyang. Yes, she did not like Zhang Sanbao and could not stand his weakness. But from the bottom of her heart, she did not hate Zhang Sanbao. In her heart, she had always treated Zhang Sanbao as a friend. Although she was usually a little cold, this was her character. Apart from a few people, she did not like to deliberately show her feelings for others. To put it simply, if Zhang Sanbao was in trouble, she would definitely not sit back and do nothing. In other words, she was cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Putting all these aside, they were all from the East City, and they had been friends for so many years. Zhang Sanbao should not have done this. Therefore, this made it very difficult for her to accept. "Why?" Zhang Sanbao muttered and suddenly looked up and laughed maniacally. "Answer me," Zhao Shaojin shouted angrily. "Okay, I will answer you. After so many years, you should understand my feelings for you. I liked you so much, took care of you so much, and even took care of your family. But how did you repay me? It's one thing for her to be indifferent to me, but sometimes she even looks at me with disdain. How did I make you look down on me? Just because you comprehended the third profound? Just because you have Yi Tian as your backer?" Zhang Sanbao's face looked extremely ferocious. "I've never looked down on you." Zhao Shaojin shook his head. "Of course you would say that now. Yes. I hate because of love. I refuse to accept this. I've done so much for you. Why did you run into Yi Tian's arms in the blink of an eye? Just because he is the eldest grandson of the Vice Alliance Master. The #1 monster of our Rogue Cultivator Alliance. In terms of family background and talent, I can't compare to him. But in terms of feelings for you, he can't even compare to 1,000th of mine. The most hateful thing is that you treat Mo Wuyuan and Mo Wuhui better than you treat me. Why? So, when Feng Wanyan found me and asked me to participate in this plan, I agreed. I want you to know that you can only be my woman for the rest of your life. Even Yi Tian can forget about touching you." Zhang Sanbao laughed maniacally. His eyes were filled with the desire to possess Zhao Shaojin. "Why do we have to be together? Isn't it good to be friends?" Zhao Shaojin frowned. "Friends? Can you stop joking? No matter what, I must have you." Feng Wanyan also agreed to give you to me. "As long as you are willing to be my woman, we will let you go. But Mo Wuyuan must die." Zhang Sanbao laughed sinisterly. "It was impossible in the past, and it's even more impossible now. Because now you make me feel disgusted." Zhao Xiaojin's face was filled with disgust. "Haha, I feel disgusted? Can I be more disgusted than you? Seeing that Yi Tian is the grandson of the Vice Alliance Master, you shamelessly took the initiative to approach him. Isn't this because of his identity and status? Don't make yourself sound so noble. You are just a smelly bitch who uses your body to earn fame and fortune." Zhang Sanbao sneered. "You?" Zhao Shaojin was ashamed and angry. He actually thought of her as such a woman. She liked Yi Tian, but she had never forced him, let alone took the initiative to approach him. She could tolerate betrayal, but she could not tolerate someone insulting her like this. Zhao Shaojin raised her arm and pointed her sword at Zhang Sanbao. The holy light sword shone brightly. "Want to kill me?" Zhang Sanbao sneered. "That's right." Zhao Shaojin nodded. "Haha. It seems that you are really a woman who is difficult to tame. But it doesn't matter. There is still a long time before the trial. After I cripple your cultivation, I will slowly train you. Not only do I want you to be my woman, but I also want you to be my plaything." Zhang Sanbao smiled sinisterly. A monstrous killing intent erupted. "This is the law of slaughter." Qin Feiyang's pupils constricted. However, what was even more shocking was yet to come. As the law of slaughter emerged, a huge blood-colored barrier appeared and instantly enveloped Qin Feiyang and Zhao Shaojin. Killing intent domain. Qin Feiyang was shocked. "That's right. This is the third profundity of the law of slaughter, killing intent domain." Zhang Sanbao laughed sinisterly. When did you comprehend the third profundity? Zhao Xiaojin also had a look of shock. After knowing each other for so many years, she naturally knew Zhang Sanbao's strength. He had only comprehended the first profundity. You must be very surprised. Actually, I have already comprehended the second profundity. But like you, I didn't say it out loud. Just a few years ago, I comprehended the third profundity. So now you who are seriously injured are not my opponent at all. Zhang Sanbao laughed loudly. I have already comprehended the second profundity, Zhao Xiaojin muttered. Do you know why I hid it from you? Actually, it's all for you, Zhang Sanbao said. For me? Zhao Xiaojin raised her eyebrows. With my cultivation and talent, I could have entered the hall of the exalted long ago. But I hope to go in with you. I wanted to take care of you and protect you. So I have been waiting. But I didn't expect that what I waited for would be your intimate relationship with Yi Tian. I waited bitterly for you for so many years. But in exchange, this is the result. If it were you, wouldn't you go crazy? Zhang Sanbao roared. Bloody storms suddenly roared out of the killing, intent domain, exuding an apocalyptic aura. Zhao Xiaojin immediately used the law of light to resist with all her might. Women are all snobbish. They follow whoever has status and identity. Looking at you, my heart is filled with hatred and hatred. Zhang Sanbao let out a furious roar, and the countless crimson tornadoes immediately swarmed toward Zhao Xiaojin and Qin Feiyang. Zhao Xiaojin's face sank. She slashed the radiant sacred sword to the left, immediately shattering several storms. She pulled Qin Feiyang and fled to the left. Escape? In the killing intent domain, I am the ruler. Zhang Sanbao laughed coldly. Bloody storms suddenly appeared in front of him, sweeping over with monstrous divine power. Zhao Xiaojin protected Qin Feiyang while waving the radiant sacred sword, constantly attacking the storms, forcibly opening a bloody path. You won't be able to escape, but at this moment, the azure-robed man and the others also activated their law intent and charged forward. Scram! Zhao Xiaojin roared. The radiant sacred sword flew out of her hand, crushing the storms and heading straight for the azure-robed man and the others. Still so fierce? The group of people was shocked and hurriedly dodged. But at the same time, Zhang Sanbao came from behind with the god-killing sword. Kill them! The azure-robed man and the others roared ferociously. With just you? Zhao Xiaojin roared angrily. She spat out a mouthful of blood essence, and her appearance instantly aged. Immediately after, she dragged Qin Feiyang and instantly swept out of the killing intent domain. Without looking back, she passed through the beast horde in front of her and disappeared into the distant mountains. What? The azure-robed man and the others watched this scene with their mouths agape. Why did she suddenly become so fast? Was it a heaven-defying, assistive divine art? But wasn't it impossible to activate heaven-defying divine items in this trial ground? Brother Zhang, what's going on? The group of people came back to their senses and turned to look at Zhang Sanbao. I don't know either. Zhang Sanbao was also a little dazed. He had never seen such a method from Zhao Xiaojin before. Then what should we do now? The red-robed woman asked. What else can we do? Chase after them, Zhang Sanbao shouted, and immediately dispersed the killing intent domain. He used the supreme-level assistive divine art and rushed in the direction where Qin Feiyang disappeared. The azure-robed man and the others looked at each other and hurriedly chased after them. The surrounding beasts couldn't help but retreat to the side, their eyes full of suspicion. The humans who came to the trial ground this time were all crazy. In the past, the humans who came here were usually looking for treasures in the trial ground. But the people who came this time were actually killing each other? There was no lack of sovereigns among the beasts here. Therefore, since the beasts didn't block the way, Zhang Sanbao and the others didn't dare to take the initiative to provoke them. Chapter 31:25. Let's talk about Qin Feiyang and Zhao Ying. Zhao Xiaojin's current speed was quite terrifying. Before the beasts they encountered along the way could react, the two of them had already passed through the sky. Some of the Sovereign Realm beasts noticed the two of them, but even the Sovereign Realm beasts couldn't catch up with them. Qin Feiyang was shocked. How did Zhao Xiaojin's speed become so fast? According to the level of a heaven-defying divine technique, Zhao Xiaojin's current speed was definitely comparable to a peak-level heaven-defying divine technique. At the same time, the change in Zhao Xiaojin's face also surprised Qin Feiyang. At this moment, where was Zhao Xiaojin's previous beauty? Her hair was white, her face was old, and her face was full of wrinkles. She looked like an old woman in her 70s or 80s. Swish! About half an hour passed. Qin Feiyang's qi had long been repaired. Zhao Xiaojin looked behind and finally stopped. She landed on a mountain peak and fell to the ground weakly. "How are you?" Qin Feiyang's face changed slightly, and he quickly squatted on the ground and asked. Excessive vitality consumption. Even her voice had become extremely hoarse and weak. Qin Feiyang took out a divine life pill with 5 dragon-shaped pill qi and put it into Zhao Xiaojin's mouth. The majestic vitality immediately nourished Zhao Xiaojin's damaged body. The weak aura also gradually stabilized. Could it be that this is a forbidden technique? Qin Feiyang breathed a sigh of relief and asked suspiciously, "That's right. At the cost of vitality, it's comparable to a peak-level heaven-defying assistance divine technique." Zhao Xiaojin nodded and slowly sat up with the help of Qin Feiyang. As expected, Qin Feiyang muttered. He had seen this kind of forbidden technique on Wang Zicheng before. However, the level of the two was different. They shouldn't be able to catch up so quickly. "Let's rest here first," Zhao Xiaojin said. "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded and then asked, "How long do you need to recover?" "As long as there are enough divine life pills, I can recover in less than 2 days," Zhao Xiaojin said. Qin Feiyang nodded and smiled. "Don't worry about the life divine pellet, I have plenty of them." "Me too. But how many more tricks are you hiding?" "The second profundity of the laws of war, the third profundity of the laws of thunder. I can't help but wonder if you're hiding the power of other laws." Zhao Xiaojin frowned and sized up Qin Feiyang, as if he wanted to see through Qin Feiyang. "Stop joking. With my cultivation, I'm already very lucky to be able to comprehend 2 types of laws." Qin Feiyang was speechless. "That's true." Zhao Xiaojin nodded, then pouted and said, "Anyway, you lied to me, so you have to compensate me for my mental damage." She had always thought that Qin Feiyang's strength was not much, but she did not expect him to be so strong. If it wasn't for Zhang Sanbao's sneak attack, they definitely wouldn't have had to flee. Ugh. Qin Feiyang was stunned and said with a bitter smile, "Can you not pout like this? You look a little scary." An old woman in her 70s or 80s pouted. No matter how one looked at it, it was a little awkward. "You still despise me? Aren't I just trying to save you?" Zhao Xiaojin glared at him angrily. Okay. It's my fault. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand, then sat down beside Zhao Xiaojin and asked, "What do you plan to do with this Zhang Sanbao?" "Kill," Zhao Xiaojin said without hesitation, the killing intent in his eyes undisguised. "But he's the son of the East City, Lord after all. Killing him is not a good thing for you, your brother and your parents," Qin Feiyang said. "Anyway, no one knows what happened in the trial ground. When the time comes, I'll tell them that he was killed by the fierce beasts in the trial ground." Zhao Xiaojin sneered. What if they come to the trial ground to investigate? After all, there were many fierce beasts watching us fight with them. Qin Feiyang said, "It doesn't matter if they investigate. Anyway, they attacked first. We're doing it out of self-defense." After Zhao Xiaojin finished speaking, she immediately looked at Qin Feiyang and said with a frown, "No, I say, why are you being so overcautious and indecisive? I'm thinking for you, okay? I don't care at all." Qin Feiyang was helpless. At most, he would shed all pretense of cordiality, reveal his identity, and have a big fight with them. "I thank you for your kind intentions." Zhao Xiaojin rolled his eyes at Qin Feiyang. After a moment of silence, he lamented, "After so many years of friendship, I'm actually not as reliable as you, someone I've just met. How sad. We've also known each other for more than 300 years, okay? And we live under the same roof." Qin Feiyang smiled slightly. "That's true. But how many times have we met in the past 300 years? Ever since you guys went into seclusion, you haven't appeared once. To be honest, if my brother works half as hard as you two, I'll be satisfied." Zhao Xiaojin shook his head and sighed. Everyone has their own ambitions. Since Zhao Yang likes this kind of lazy life, let him be. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. "You don't understand. Although everyone in our alliance is from the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, the competition between each other is also quite intense, especially family background. Take my father, for example. His talent is not bad, but because he doesn't have a family background, he hasn't been valued. If he was given the best resources, he would have stepped into the peak dominator realm long ago." Zhao Xiaojin sighed, a trace of sadness on his face. "Is that why you're working so hard?" Qin Feiyang asked. Since my brother isn't working hard, I can only work hard and strive to create the best life for my family." Zhao Xiaojin nodded. "Women aren't inferior to men. Good job." Qin Feiyang gave her a thumbs up. Then he said, "Then you rest first. I'll go around and see if there's any danger." "Be careful," Zhao Xiaojin warned. Qin Feiyang smiled, got up, walked to the edge of the cliff, and looked down. Zhao Xiaojin looked at Qin Feiyang, and a trace of a smile flashed across his eyes. Although she didn't have much contact with Qin Feiyang, she felt an inexplicable sense of security in her heart. When she thought of Zhang Sanbao, she couldn't help but feel sad. Below, there were endless mountains and rivers. The plants were withered and yellow, and the essence energy was weak. Qin Feiyang silently released his divine perception and searched to the greatest extent. He saw many beasts. However, these beasts didn't discover them, so they were quite quiet. And suddenly, his divine will locked onto the mountainside below him, and he discovered that there was a cave there. Swish! Qin Feiyang took a step forward and landed in front of the cave. A pungent smell immediately rushed toward him. The cave was a little dim, and the ground was overgrown with weeds. "There seems to be a beast," Qin Feiyang muttered and stepped into the cave. The inside of the cave was hundreds of feet wide. When Qin Feiyang entered the cave, he found a giant python in the middle of the cave. The giant python was red all over and coiled on the ground. There were magma-like snake scales on its body. Its aura was very weak, and it seemed to be sleeping. Qin Feiyang looked at the giant python suspiciously. By right, this kind of creature should be very sensitive. However, he had already entered the cave and it didn't discover it? He walked closer and observed carefully. And suddenly he looked at the top of the giant python's head, only to see that there were 2 horns on its head. This seems to be, that's right, dragon horns. Qin Feiyang was shocked and immediately ran to the other side to look at the belly of the giant python. At that moment, his eyes lit up. Under the belly of the giant python, there were 5 bulging meat lumps. "This is evolution," Qin Feiyang muttered. "That's right. This giant python was in the process of transforming. Those 5 meat lumps were the dragon claws that were about to come out." His luck was not bad. He actually encountered a transformed giant python. Once the transformation was successful, it was equivalent to a fish leaping through the dragon gate and turning into a divine dragon. A divine dragon, for anyone, had a fatal temptation, especially young people. To be able to find a divine dragon as a mount was a very prestigious and dignified thing. Qin Feiyang observed for a while and found something wrong. When the five-clawed golden dragon was transforming, he saw it at the scene. It didn't seem to be so weak. It seemed that something was wrong. Wait a minute. Could it be that the transformation was in trouble? Qin Feiyang quickly immersed his mind into the black tortoise realm, found the five-clawed golden dragon, and explained the situation. As a divine dragon, the five-clawed golden dragon definitely knew the transformation process better than him. The five-clawed golden dragon pondered for a while and said, "It is indeed transforming, but it should have encountered some difficulties and is stuck in the transformation process. If you don't help it, it will definitely die. If it died, it would be death. Then how can I help?" Qin Feiyang was suspicious. "You let me out." The five-clawed golden dragon said, "You can come out." Qin Feiyang was stunned. In this trial ground, it was impossible to use heaven-defying divine arts and artifacts. No, the Black Tortoise realm was not a heaven-defying divine object. It was an independent world, so it should not be restricted. At that moment, with a thought, the five-clawed golden dragon immediately appeared beside him. Just like before, it maintained its human form, middle-aged appearance, wearing a golden robe and exuding a natural domineering aura. "That's it." Qin Feiyang pointed at the giant python. The five-clawed golden dragon looked at it for a while and said, "This is transforming into a fire dragon." "Fire dragon," Qin Feiyang muttered. Speaking of the fire dragon, he couldn't help but think of the fire dragon in the miracle. Where was that beast now? Just as Qin Feiyang was deep in thought, the five-clawed golden dragon waved its hand, and a strand of divine dragon power entered the giant python's body. The giant python's body immediately trembled, and its weak aura immediately began to strengthen. Seeing this, the five-clawed golden dragon waved its hand again, and a few strands of divine dragon power entered the giant python's abdomen. Crack! At that moment, under the giant python's abdomen, the snake scales on the 5 large lumps of flesh began to shatter. Then, the flesh also began to collapse and blood flowed out. Along with the blood, 5 fiery red dragon claws appeared one after another. At the same time, firmament, the originally clear sky, was suddenly filled with blood-red clouds from all directions, followed by the sound of thunder. Zhao Xiaojin, who was sitting on the mountain peak, recuperating, opened his eyes in surprise and looked up at the sky. This seemed to be heavenly tribulation. Chapter 31:26. Why is there a heavenly tribulation? Zhao Xiaojin was shocked. She quickly got up and left the mountain peak to avoid being affected by the heavenly tribulation. At the same time, inside the cave abode, "Let's go!" the 5-clawed golden dragon shouted. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and sent the 5-clawed golden dragon to the Black Tortoise realm before rushing out of the cave abode. "I'm here," Zhao Xiaojin's voice sounded. Qin Feiyang looked up and immediately teleported to Zhao Xiaojin's side. "What's going on?" Zhao Xiaojin was puzzled. "It's really fate." Qin Feiyang smiled and explained the situation in the cave. As for the 5-clawed golden dragon, he naturally ignored it. Transformation. Zhao Xiaojin was shocked. She actually encountered such a thing? Boom. Crack. The heavenly tribulation in the sky became more and more terrifying. Bolts of blood-colored lightning danced in the heavenly tribulation clouds like pythons. Zhao Xiaojin looked at the sky and asked, "What's the cultivation of that python?" "Cultivation?" Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned and shook his head. I didn't pay attention to that. Zhao Xiaojin instantly rolled his eyes when he heard this, and he said, You're helping it when its cultivation hasn't even been confirmed? What if it returns the favor with enmity? Before I left, it was still in a coma. It probably doesn't know that I helped it. Qin Feiyang smiled bitterly. All right, I'll take it that you're doing a good deed without leaving your name. Zhao Xiaojin was speechless. However, she actually encountered such a good thing. If the python really succeeded in transforming, how impressive would it be if she kept it by her side? Crack! The first heavenly tribulation descended. The terrifying heavenly might came like a tide, covering the sky and shattering the earth. The surrounding beasts also fled frantically, and that giant mountain also shattered under the heavenly might. The giant python emerged from the dust and smoke. At this moment, it was still unconscious. Zhao Xiaojin sized up the python and said in shock, It has a sovereign cultivation. Sovereign? Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. After taking a closer look, it indeed had a sovereign cultivation. He seemed to be a half-step sovereign. Zhao Xiaojin asked suspiciously, It's not prepared at all, so how is it going to transcend the tribulation? Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed, and he said with a smile, Why don't you go and help it? Me? Zhao Xiaojin was stunned. He looked at the heavenly tribulation with fear in his eyes. What a joke! This was a heavenly tribulation. Although she was born in the Alliance capital and had seen a lot, it was still her first time encountering a heavenly tribulation. Even this heavenly might was not something that she could forcefully resist. Although the heavenly tribulation is terrifying, it can temper the body. The strength of the body is also a great method. Qin Feiyang smiled. I know that. I heard that two people called Qin Feiyang and Madman Mo have recently appeared in Winxi City. Their physical bodies can even take on autarch-level artifacts. Zhao Xiaojin nodded. You've heard of them? Qin Feiyang was surprised. Even Big Brother Yitian was defeated by this Qin Feiyang. How could I not know? Zhao Xiaojin snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang was stunned. He sized up Zhao Xiaojin and said, Judging from your expression, you seem to hate Qin Feiyang a little? Not hate, but rather hate. Zhao Xiaojin said. He doesn't seem to have done anything crazy, right? Qin Feiyang was a little speechless. He was inexplicably hated by someone. I just don't like him. So what? Zhao Xiaojin glared at Qin Feiyang. Not much, not much. Qin Feiyang hurriedly waved his hand and looked up at the giant python. The heavenly tribulation had already descended, but there were still no signs of waking up. Let's go. I'll help you temper your body. Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed slightly. He grabbed Zhao Xiaojin and rushed towards the heavenly tribulation. Are you crazy? Zhao Xiaojin's face turned pale. Don't panic. I have mastered the law of lightning. This heavenly tribulation doesn't pose much of a threat to me. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and landed on top of the giant python. He warned, You stay here. After saying that, he let go of Zhao Xiaojin and rushed into the sky to meet the heavenly tribulation. Looking at Qin Feiyang's back, Zhao Xiaojin's eyes were a little dazed. She suddenly felt that this ordinary-looking man was quite charming. Back to Qin Feiyang. Looking at the heavenly tribulation descending from the sky, he was actually still a little nervous, because the giant python's heavenly tribulation was different from his heavenly tribulation. Back then, when he was transcending the heavenly tribulation, it was a half-step, indestructible heavenly tribulation. But now, the giant python was a half-step sovereign. There was an entire realm difference. Although his cultivation had stepped into the greater success indestructible after all these years, he was still quite a distance away from the half-step sovereign. Although he had a certain immunity to the heavenly tribulation after mastering the law of lightning, the difference was too great, so he couldn't help but be a little nervous. He was worried that he couldn't withstand the heavenly tribulation with his current ability. However, he had to give it a try. In the blink of an eye, Qin Feiyang and the heavenly tribulation collided with a bang, and a tearing pain immediately swept over him. As expected, even though he had mastered the law of lightning, because of the difference in cultivation, he couldn't do it as easily as when he was transcending the heavenly tribulation. However, it was still within the range of tolerance. The law of lightning rolled out and fused with the heavenly tribulation. Because only after his law of lightning fused with the heavenly tribulation could he control it. Boom! In the sky, the second heavenly tribulation began to brew. Qin Feiyang also finally fused the law of lightning and the heavenly tribulation into one. Then, under his control, the heavenly tribulation turned into thousands of wisps and surged toward Zhao Shaojin bit by bit. Because if the entire heavenly tribulation blasted toward Zhao Shaojin, she definitely wouldn't be able to withstand it. Therefore, it had to fuse into Zhao Shaojin's body bit by bit. So powerful. At the same time, Zhao Shaojin looked at Qin Feiyang's methods, her eyes full of shock. It was the first time in her life that she had seen someone who could control the heavenly tribulation. She immediately felt a trace of envy in her heart. If she also mastered the law of lightning, would she not have to fear the heavenly tribulation like this person? What are you doing? Hurry up and get ready. Qin Feiyang looked at Zhao Shaojin's thoughtful expression and couldn't help but feel angry. How could she still be in the mood to let her imagination run wild at a time like this? Zhao Shaojin came back to her senses and hurriedly calmed herself down to welcome the arrival of the heavenly tribulation. Boom! The first wisp of lightning power descended and slowly approached Zhao Shaojin's arm. Although it was only a small wisp, Zhao Shaojin felt a great threat. She didn't dare to be careless at all. When that small wisp of lightning power fused with Zhao Shaojin's arm, a terrifying power immediately exploded. Her entire arm was immediately lacerated, and flesh and blood splattered everywhere. This made Zhao Shaojin immediately feel afraid. Hold on. Don't panic. Quickly use this power to temper your body. If you can't take it, take the divine life pill. Qin Feiyang shouted. Okay. Zhao Shaojin nodded and immediately sat cross-legged in the void. She gritted her teeth and endured the pain, absorbing the energy of the heavenly tribulation and constantly tempering her body. Crack! The second heavenly tribulation descended again. Qin Feiyang went all out to block the heavenly tribulation and quickly merged with the law of lightning. Zhao Shaojin finally finished absorbing the first wisp of lightning power. She could clearly feel that whether it was her body or strength, they were both becoming stronger. After tasting the sweetness, she worked even harder. She took out a divine life pill and threw it into her mouth to welcome the second wisp, the third wisp, and the fourth wisp of lightning power, in fact. Compared to Qin Feiyang and Frenzy, she was much more fortunate. Because back then, Qin Feiyang and Frenzy didn't have anyone to help them and had to withstand the complete heavenly tribulation one after another. There was a world of difference between a complete heavenly tribulation and a wisp of lightning energy. And now, Qin Feiyang divided the heavenly tribulation into thousands of wisps, and its power naturally dropped to the lowest. In other words, the damage Zhao Shaojin suffered now was only 1 in 10 million, or even 1 in 10,000 of a complete heavenly tribulation. If she couldn't even withstand this, then she wasn't worthy of being called a genius. It was also because Zhao Shaojin's absorption speed was too slow that more and more heavenly tribulation accumulated above Qin Feiyang. Qin Feiyang also tried to see if he could use the heavenly tribulation of a half-step ruler to raise his body to the heaven-defying level. However, when he quickly absorbed a complete heavenly tribulation, his body and strength didn't increase at all. In other words, after reaching the supremacy level, The heavenly tribulation was indeed unable to continue increasing the strength of the body and strength. But the energy contained in the python heavenly tribulation really gave him a fright. In the past, whether it was his own tribulation, the fire lotus, or the five-clawed golden dragon's tribulation, the energy contained in the heavenly tribulation was far inferior to this python's heavenly tribulation. He could conclude that, without absorbing all the heavenly tribulation, Zhao Xiaojin's body and strength could be raised to the supremacy level. Looking at the increasing power of lightning above Qin Feiyang, Zhao Xiaojin's competitive spirit was stimulated. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that, right now, the power of lightning above Qin Feiyang could be described as a pool of lightning, because up until now, 15 heavenly tribulations had descended, and Zhao Xiaojin hadn't even finished absorbing the energy of a single heavenly tribulation. In comparison, she suddenly felt that she was too weak. You can increase the intensity. I can take it. She looked at Qin Feiyang and said, "Okay." Qin Feiyang nodded. The power of lightning increased from 1 to 10 and entered Zhao Xiaojin's body. The intense pain also doubled. One had to admit that Zhao Xiaojin's willpower wasn't bad. She gritted her teeth and endured. Boom! After absorbing the energy of a single heavenly tribulation, her body and strength were raised to the level of a low-grade divine artifact. As expected, Qin Feiyang muttered, "The energy contained in the heavenly tribulation of a half-step ruler was indeed different. Increase the intensity." Zhao Xiaojin roared. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly and increased the 10 strands of lightning energy to 50 strands, because as Zhao Xiaojin's body became stronger, her endurance would also gradually increase. But gradually, Qin Feiyang started to be unable to bear it, because the power of the heavenly tribulation became stronger. The immunity to the laws of lightning also became weaker and weaker. About an hour later, the 70th heavenly tribulation descended. The power of lightning above Qin Feiyang could no longer be described as a pool of lightning. It could be described as a sea of lightning. Waves of lightning surged in the sky like angry waves, emitting a destructive aura. Pooh! As the 70th heavenly tribulation descended, Qin Feiyang spat out a mouthful of blood. His hands were shattered, and his body cracked inch by inch. Remaining 2, released at 9 and 10. Chapter 30:127. Are you okay? Zhao Xiaojin's expression changed slightly. Don't worry about me. Qin Feiyang looked up at the sky with a serious expression. There were still 29 heavenly tribulations left. It seemed that it would be difficult to deal with them. In less than an hour, Zhao Xiaojin had already absorbed 15 bolts of tribulation energy. Her body and strength had also been upgraded to the level of a supreme-grade divine artifact. She was one step away from reaching the pinnacle level. Hearing Qin Feiyang's words, Zhao Xiaojin calmed down and continued to refine. Who are you? Suddenly, a doubtful voice sounded. Qin Feiyang looked down and saw the giant python sleepily opening its eyes and looking up at the two of them. You're not sleeping, are you? Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. Yes. I was seriously injured by my opponent during the transformation and became very weak, so I have been sleeping. Who are you? Are you transcending the heavenly tribulation? The giant python looked at Qin Feiyang with difficulty. Qin Feiyang was astonished. She was so sleepy. No, but the next moment, the giant python got up and looked at the heavenly tribulation. The aura of the heavenly tribulation was locked onto it, which meant that it was transcending the heavenly tribulation. What was going on? This was its heavenly tribulation. Why were there 2 humans on it, especially that man who had blocked all the heavenly tribulations? His cultivation level was only at the phenomenal, imperishable stage. How could he have such powerful means? Boom! The 71st heavenly tribulation descended. Qin Feiyang immediately looked up at the heavenly tribulation with uneasiness in his eyes. In just a few seconds, the heavenly tribulation descended. Qin Feiyang's body and mind trembled. More and more cracks appeared on his body, and his blood dyed the sky red. If it weren't for his bloodline powers, self-healing ability, and the melting of his fire of life, his body would have been torn apart. But even so, his heart became heavier and heavier. He hurriedly took out a large handful of divine life pills and stuffed them into his mouth. Majestic energy exploded and quickly repaired his body. He's so resilient. The giant python looked at Qin Feiyang in shock. Then, it looked at Zhao Shaojin with a stunned expression. He was actually using the power of the heavenly tribulation to temper his body? These humans must be crazy. How could he do such a crazy thing? Crack! The 72nd, 73rd, and 74th heavenly tribulations fell one after another. Qin Feiyang had reached his limit. Retreat! Zhao Xiaojin's physical body and strength broke through once again, stepping into the pinnacle stage. She was overjoyed. Who would have thought that he would actually obtain such a great fortune from this trial? However, when he saw Qin Feiyang's condition, he couldn't help but change his expression. If things continued like this, Qin Feiyang would be doomed. Retreating now was the wisest choice. In any case, the accumulated heavenly tribulation was enough to upgrade her physical body to the Supreme Being level. Don't retreat. Once you retreat, I'm done for. When the giant python heard Zhao Xiaojin's words, it immediately roared. It wasn't confident that it could survive the remaining 20 or so heavenly tribulations. In your dreams, you want us to carry it while you sit down and enjoy the fruits of our labor. Don't forget that this is your heavenly tribulation. Qin Feiyang was speechless. We're all brothers. What's there to distinguish between yours and mine? You're treating me like an outsider. The giant python smiled without blushing. Brother? The corner of Qin Feiyang's mouth twitched. It was really friendly. The giant python roared. Brother, I have high hopes for you. You can do it. Do your best. Scram! Qin Feiyang shouted angrily. It really didn't know what being polite was. However, this time, helping Zhao Shaojin improve her physical body and strength gave him some inspiration. Why not use the same method to help others strengthen their physical body and strength? For example, Zhao Tailai, Tang Hai, the Blood Kirin, the White-Eyed Wolf, the 54 Divine Generals, and so on. If everyone's physical body could be improved to the supreme level, then the overall strength of the Black Tortoise world would rise to another level. Thinking of this, Qin Feiyang's eyes flashed. He transmitted his voice. Senior Brother Crazy, quickly change your appearance. What? Crazy's voice sounded in his mind. Don't say it. Hurry up, Qin Feiyang urged. It's definitely not a good thing. Crazy muttered and took a disguised pill, turning into Mo Wu Hui's appearance. Qin Feiyang's mind moved, and Crazy immediately appeared beside him. Damn it, are you trying to kill me? Crazy's expression changed drastically when he saw this. Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up and help, Qin Feiyang said. Mo Wu Hui? Zhao Shaojin was stunned. Why would he appear? Didn't he leave the Alliance capital to train? Crazy ignored Zhao Shaojin and immediately activated the Law of Lightning. He joined forces with Qin Feiyang to resist the heavenly tribulation. With Crazy's help, Qin Feiyang's pressure was reduced. So both of you have mastered the Law of Lightning. The giant python nodded in realization. So you were hiding here. However, at this moment, a roar sounded. Boom! Following closely, a terrifying aura rolled over from afar. What the hell is that? Qin Feiyang and the other two's expressions changed. The giant python's pupils also shrank. Very soon, a huge ferocious beast roared and appeared in their line of sight. Its size was very strange. Lion head, deer horns, tiger eyes, elk body, dragon scales, dragon tail. Its entire body was like white jade, pure and flawless. This seems to be, Qin Feiyang's mind shook. This is the white jade qilin. The white jade qilin, fire qilin, and blood qilin belonged to the qilin race. He didn't expect that there would be a natural divine beast in this trial ground. This thing, I like it. Crazy's eyes lit up. Like it. Qin Feiyang was slightly stunned. He turned to look at Crazy, only to see him staring at the white jade qilin with a fiery gaze. Obviously, Crazy took a fancy to this white jade qilin and wanted to subdue it. However, this white jade qilin's cultivation was not simple. Moreover, it was a divine beast with an orthodox bloodline. It would be difficult for Crazy to subdue it, because here he couldn't use any heaven-defying divine artifacts. This was a huge obstacle, unless he outsmarted it. The giant python looked at the white jade qilin, its eyes filled with anger. You are really haunting me. What do you mean? Qin Feiyang was suspicious. It is it that took advantage of this emperor's transformation to sneak attack me, seriously injuring me. It wasn't easy for this emperor to escape here, but I didn't expect it to find me again, the giant python said. So that's how it is. Qin Feiyang suddenly understood and smiled. But now you don't have to worry. It doesn't dare to approach the heavenly tribulation. As expected, when the white jade qilin was about to approach, it suddenly stopped and stood not far away, staring at the giant python, Qin Feiyang and the other two. Come over if you have the guts. The giant python looked at it provocatively. You are courting death. The white jade qilin's eyes shone fiercely as it swooped down towards the giant python. Qin Feiyang waved his hand and a heavenly tribulation shot out. The white jade qilin's expression changed and it hurriedly retreated. Then it looked at Qin Feiyang in shock and anger and roared, I advise you not to meddle in other people's business. If you don't come over, I naturally won't attack you. Qin Feiyang smiled. Crazy saw that the white jade qilin was so afraid of the heavenly tribulation, and a smile flashed across his eyes. I have an idea. Use the heavenly tribulation. Qin Feiyang asked secretly. We really have a telepathic connection. Crazy chuckled. Qin Feiyang rolled his eyes at him and said, Don't be in a hurry. Let's wait for the heavenly tribulation to end first. Now he had to go all out to face the remaining heavenly tribulation. Zhao Shaojin was also a little flustered. What are you panicking for? Don't you still have us? Crazy shouted. Humph. Zhao Shaojin glared at Crazy and continued to temper its body. Crack. Soon, the 85th heavenly tribulation descended. Even if Qin Feiyang and Crazy worked together, they were still unable to hold on. Both of them were covered in blood. On the other hand, the giant python had it the easiest. The white jade qilin didn't go forward and looked coldly at Qin Feiyang and Crazy. It didn't believe that the two of them could really withstand all the heavenly tribulation. As long as they couldn't, the two of them would definitely be destroyed. Once the two of them died, the giant python definitely wouldn't be able to withstand it with its little ability. At that time, it would die under the heavenly tribulation without needing to do anything. Another few hundred breaths passed. The 90th heavenly tribulation descended. Qin Feiyang and Crazy had already reached their limits. No, if this continues, we'll all be finished. Crazy said solemnly. Qin Feiyang said, if we can activate the battle character art, we can give it a try. Then hurry up and activate it. Crazy urged. You don't know, but in this trial ground, it's impossible to activate a heaven-defying divine item. Qin Feiyang shook his head. Damn, then this will be troublesome. Crazy raised his eyebrows. Suddenly his eyes lit up and he sent a voice transmission. Why don't we bring the giant python to the black tortoise world? Qin Feiyang was stunned. This was a good idea. After entering the black tortoise world, whether it was him or Crazy, they could go all out. All of you, get rid of this immediately. The power of the heavenly tribulation has already reached the level of a greater success ruler. The black tortoise world will be fine, but I can't guarantee the lives of the black tortoise world. The little boy's voice suddenly sounded in Qin Feiyang and Crazy's minds. Qin Feiyang and Crazy looked at each other and couldn't help but smile bitterly. Crack! The 91st heavenly tribulation descended. Crazy gritted his teeth, stared at the heavenly tribulation, and said solemnly, "Then let's make a bet." Okay. Qin Feiyang nodded. They were stuck at the third profundity of the law of lightning, unable to break through. Now that the heavenly tribulation happened, they might as well find a breakthrough in the heavenly tribulation like back on divine Dragon Island. The two of them immediately consumed the divine life pill and sent the universe ring to the ancient castle. Following that, the two of them took the initiative to face the heavenly tribulation with the law of lightning. As expected of Crazy, the giant python grumbled. Zhao Shaojin and the white jade Qilин's eyes were also trembling. How could there be such a crazy person in this world? Wasn't this courting death? Boom! The heavenly tribulation struck, and Qin Feiyang and Crazy's bodies were instantly torn apart. "What are you doing, Run?" Zhao Shaojin roared. But the two of them turned a deaf ear to him, calmly comprehending the power and mysteries of the heavenly tribulation. Lightning continued to surge in the surroundings, emitting an apocalyptic aura. Although Qin Feiyang and Crazy's bodies were being destroyed, if one observed carefully, they would discover that their law of lightning was rapidly fusing with the heavenly tribulation. Chapter 30, 128. So that's how it is, gathering Kanei-chi in the body, combining the good fortune of heaven and earth, controlling lightning in the palm of your hand, summoning the 9 heavens' divine thunder. The moment their bodies were completely destroyed, the two of them finally understood. The divine souls floating in the lightning slowly gathered together and transformed into a human form. The two of them stood in the lightning as if they had merged with the heavenly tribulation, and it no longer caused them any harm. What's going on? Zhao Shaojin, the giant python, and the white jade Qilin looked at Qin Feiyang and Madame in surprise. Madman glanced at Qin Feiyang and said angrily, "You really aren't lagging behind at all. Aren't you the same?" Qin Feiyang chuckled. "Get lost. In terms of the power of laws, I am stronger than you." Madman glared at him angrily. "That was in the past. Now I am stronger than you." Qin Feiyang smiled proudly. "Don't be so proud." Madman snorted coldly. "Why did you change your appearance?" Zhao Xiaojin's voice suddenly sounded. Qin Feiyang and Madman were stunned. They looked at each other and cursed in their hearts. After their bodies were shattered, only their divine souls were left. The effect of the illusion form pill had also lost its effect. Now, the two of them had revealed their true appearances. "You are..." Zhao Shaojin stared at the two of them and suddenly thought of something. She exclaimed, "You are Qin Feiyang and Madman M.O." Ah, Qin Feiyang and Madman were stunned. This woman actually knew what they looked like. Crack! At this time, another heavenly tribulation descended from the sky, crazily striking down. However, it was no longer a threat to Qin Feiyang and Madman. Soon, the heavenly tribulation ended. All the heavenly tribulation turned into lightning and gathered around Qin Feiyang and Madman. Madman said with a sound transmission, "Old Qin, do you think we should kill them?" "What are you thinking about? She is Zhao Eryong's daughter. She will find out sooner or later anyway." Qin Feiyong rolled his eyes. Impressive, impressive. My two brothers. I'm definitely going to befriend you. The giant python laughed loudly and soared into the sky. Firmament. A beam of divine light descended and fused into the giant python's body. This was the auspicious light after the heavenly tribulation, and it was extremely beneficial to the python. When the auspicious light fused into the python's body, the python immediately completed its final transformation. A 10,000 feet long fire dragon was born, and its dragons might roared in all directions. Furthermore, its weak body had also fully recovered. Haha, little Qilin, let's fight again. The fire dragon laughed wildly and pounced towards the white jade Qilin like lightning. Afraid of you? The white jade Qilin snorted coldly, and its body swelled with the wind. In the blink of an eye, a 10,000-meter-long giant beast appeared and started fighting with the fire dragon. Qin Feiyong and the madman looked at each other and took a step forward at the same time. They landed in front of Zhao Shaojin with the sea of lightning. Zhao Shaojin quickly got up and retreated while looking at the two of them in panic. Little girl, since you've already seen through our identities, we can only kill you to silence you. The madman laughed sinisterly. It's just two divine souls. Why would I be afraid of you? Zhao Shaojin mustered up her courage and said angrily, If you're not afraid, why are you retreating? The madman looked at her teasingly. Zhao Shaojin's face turned pale. Enough. Stop teasing her. Qin Feiyong smiled and looked at Zhao Shaojin. Don't be afraid. Not only will we not hurt you, we will also protect you. Why? Zhao Shaojin was stunned. Come with us to a place. While we reconstruct your body, we will help you temper your body. We will also tell you the details. Qin Feiyong said. I'm not going. Zhao Shaojin shook her head. If you don't believe us, you should at least believe your father. Your father also knows our identities. Qin Feiyong smiled. My father knows too. Zhao Shaojin was shocked. Yes. Qin Feiyong nodded. I say, don't dawdle. If you provoke me, I will rape you first and then kill you. The madman glared fiercely at Zhao Shaojin. Zhao Shaojin shrunk her neck. Cough, cough. Qin Feiyong coughed dryly and said, Senior brother, can you be gentler? Don't scare her. If you don't scare her, will she be obedient? The madman pursed his lips and grabbed Zhao Shaojin's arm. What are you doing? Let go of me. Zhao Shaojin immediately roared, her face full of fear. The madman turned a deaf ear and dragged Zhao Shaojin to Qin Feiyong's side. Qin Feiyong waved his hand, and the three of them and Lei Hai disappeared without a trace. The fire dragon and the white jade Qilin were fighting fiercely and did not notice the disappearance of the three of them. Black Tortoise Realm, above the Devil's Land. This is... Zhao Shaojin looked at the medicine field below in surprise. This is my spatial divine item. Qin Feiyong smiled. So big? Zhao Shaojin was shocked, then frowned and said, That's not right in this trial ground. It's impossible to open a spatial divine item. Is that so? Qin Feiyong was stunned for a moment, then said with a smile, Then you can treat this as a different spatial divine item. Different? Isn't it still a spatial divine item? Something's wrong. Something's really wrong. Zhao Shaojin shook her head. There are all kinds of strange things in the world. There's nothing to ponder about. Let me tell you about us. We came to the Alliance capital to investigate the Deputy Alliance leader. Qin Feiyong looked at Zhao Shaojin and said, Investigate the Deputy Alliance leader? Zhao Shaojin was stunned. That's right. The Deputy Alliance leader tried to kill us time and time again, and the last time in Windsea City, there was actually someone from the Blood Hall who came to kill us. So we suspected that the Deputy Alliance leader was colluding with the Blood Hall. Qin Feiyong said. Impossible. Zhao Xiaojin shook her head decisively. The Deputy Alliance leader is Yi Tian's grandfather. You like Yi Tian, so of course you wouldn't believe it. But it's not just us, even the Demon Hall is suspicious of this matter. That's why we tried every possible means to sneak into the Alliance capital to investigate this matter. If the Deputy Alliance leader is really not colluding with the Blood Hall, then it's naturally for the best. But if he is, then this threat must be eliminated. As someone from the Eastern Continent and a member of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, I believe you should know what consequences it will bring to your Rogue Cultivator Alliance if the Deputy Alliance leader is really colluding with the Blood Hall. Qin Feiyang said. Zhao Xiaojin was silent. If that was really the case, then the Rogue Cultivator Alliance would definitely become a rat on the Eastern Continent. And as a member of the Rogue Cultivator Alliance, not only her, but even her parents and brother would be reviled by the world. So I hope that you can help us keep this a secret and not expose our identities. Qin Feiyang said. Zhao Xiaojin was hesitant. Let's put it this way. If the Deputy Alliance leader is not colluding with the Blood Hall, then I'll reconcile with your Rogue Cultivator Alliance. I believe you should have heard that the Deputy Alliance leader intends to reconcile with us. Qin Feiyang said. I know that. Zhao Xiaojin nodded. In any case, it won't do any harm to help us. On the contrary, if they are really colluding with each other, then you'll be a great contributor to the Rogue Cultivator Alliance. Because you're the one who helped us expose the Deputy Alliance leader's true intentions. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. Zhao Xiaojin hesitated and asked, if the Deputy Alliance leader is really colluding with the Blood Hall, then doesn't that mean Brother Yi Tian is also involved? You don't have to worry about that. I've talked to Yi Tian. At least for now, he knows nothing about this matter. Qin Feiyang said. Zhao Xiaojin was stunned and asked suspiciously, when did you talk to Brother Yi Tian? When we were in the Star River, we fought with the two sovereign divine weapons of the Blood Hall. In the end, we escaped together and talked for a while. Qin Feiyang smiled faintly. I see. Zhao Xiaojin nodded in realization. After pondering for a while, she gritted her teeth and said, All right, I'll keep it a secret for you, but you have to promise me that you won't kill the innocent in the Alliance capital. We're not devils. You can also find some time to go to the Windsea City and ask around. See how everyone judges us. Qin Feiyang smiled. I'll definitely go. Zhao Xiaojin snorted coldly. Qin Feiyang shook his head and smiled and said, All right then, I'll continue to help you temper your body. After saying that, he controlled 100 strands of lightning power and surged them into Zhao Xiaojin's body. At the same time, Qin Feiyang and Madman also sat cross-legged in the air, reshaping their bodies. Time passed. Half a day passed. Zhao Xiaojin's body had finally risen to the supreme level. This made her extremely excited. And during the entire process of Zhao Xiaojin's tempering, she had only consumed 50 heavenly tribulation bolts, and there were still 49 bolts left. And the last 49 bolts were even more terrifying than the first 50, so the energy they contained was also even more terrifying. According to Qin Feiyang's speculation, the remaining 49 bolts should be enough to raise the bodies of the two of them to the supreme level. The first thing he thought of was the white-eyed wolf and the five-clawed golden dragon. However, the two of them had both refused. Only now did Qin Feiyang realize that their physical bodies had already reached the level of supreme being. The five-clawed golden dragon was because it had fused with the body of the golden dragon ancestral dragon. In addition, it originally had the body of a divine dragon, and it was a five-clawed golden dragon. Its body was not weaker than Qin Feiyang and Madman. As for the white-eyed wolf, he didn't know. It had always been mysterious. In the end, Qin Feiyang simply went to Qin Batian and Lu Zhanyang. The two forefathers did not reject the offer, and as Qin Feiyang expected, the energy of these 49 heavenly tribulation bolts raised their bodies to the supreme level. Time flew by. Outside, half a year had passed, and in the Black Tortoise world, it had been more than 100,000 years. Qin Fei Yang and Madman's bodies had long been reconstructed. The reason why they stayed in the Black Tortoise world was because they were studying the law of lightning. When they were transcending the tribulation, they had already comprehended the essence of the fourth profound. Now, after a period of meditation, they had finally completed the fourth profound. The fourth profound, 9 heavens divine lightning. With the law of lightning as a guide, they could summon the 9 heavens divine lightning to destroy the world. This breakthrough also meant that the two of them were only a step away from reaching perfection in their lightning laws. What surprised them even more was that Qin Batian and Lu Jingyang were already trying to break through to the 5th profound. As long as they comprehended the 5th profound, they would be able to step into the half-step sovereign level. Qin Fei Yang came out of seclusion. Madman was still in seclusion. In any case, the only thing he wanted to do now was to get rid of Qin Fei Yang. As for Zhao Shaojin, Qin Fei Yang didn't let her run around the Black Tortoise world. After her body was raised to the supreme level, she had been locked in a cultivation room on the 2nd floor of the ancient castle. Because Zhao Shaojin wasn't Zhuo Shaoxian, he couldn't completely trust her, so everything in the Black Tortoise world had to be kept a secret. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.